Chapter 719. As soon as the Mountain Universe Sect spiritual master finished speaking, Lu Ping did not bother to hide his murderous intent. The Mountain Universe Sect spiritual master felt as if he had fallen into an icy abyss. Clang clang, a pair of scimitars suddenly appeared in front of the Mountain Universe Sect spiritual master, protecting him. A treasure protecting its owner. This was the effect of a spirit-nurturing level life treasure. The Mountain Universe Sect spiritual master's face turned purple. He hurriedly reached out and the pair of scimitars were kept in his heart space. There were usually two situations in which a treasure could protect its owner. One was when the cultivator was being ambushed, and the other was when the cultivator was frightened. Lu Ping did not ambush him, but the sharpness of his gaze and the murderous intent that emanated from his body had truly frightened the Mountain Universe Sect spiritual master. He was frightened. He was frightened when he was face to face. Furthermore, his opponent was not a Dharma adept, but an 8th level core forging adept. He had actually been frightened by someone of the same level as him? The Mountain Universe Sect spiritual master knew that from today onwards, he would become the laughing stock of the entire Hebei cultivation world. Lu Ping's scornful gaze swept past him. The Gu family spiritual master looked in the direction of the Mountain Universe Sect spiritual master, suppressing his laughter, and looked in the direction of Lu Ping with fear. Actually, it was not just the Mountain Universe Sect spiritual master. Spiritual Master Flying Rainbow, Spiritual Master Gu Hun, Spiritual Master Gu Zhou, Spiritual Master Jian Ming, and the others were all shocked by Lu Ping's sudden burst of power. However, Lu Ping was mainly facing the Mountain Universe Sect spiritual master, so they were only affected by the shockwaves. These cultivators, regardless of whether they were in the Mountain Universe Sect or the Gu family, could be said to be extremely successful. The Dharma adepts had all seen this with their own eyes before, and they knew very well how they felt when facing a Dharma adept. However, in that instant, the feeling that Lu Ping gave them was exactly the same as when facing a Dharma adept. The scene fell silent. However, Spiritual Master Flying Rainbow and Spiritual Master Gu Hun suddenly froze. Of the two of them, one was a late core forging adept of the Mountain Universe Sect, the other was a pillar of the Gu family. In that instant, the two of them saw the cultivators flying towards them through the spatial tunnel. 5 people, 4 at the 3rd level of the blood condensation realm. 5 people, 4 at the 3rd level of the blood condensation realm. Enlightened Master Gu Hun looked at Lu Ping in surprise. This time, only Yingshan Immortal Academy had 1st layer blood condensation realm disciples. But since they appeared together with 4 other cultivators, this meant that all 5 of them were from Yingshan Immortal Academy. However, what surprised Enlightened Master Fei Hong and Enlightened Master Gu Hun the most wasn't the fact that the 5 disciples belonged to Yingshan Immortal Academy, but the fact that Lu Ping noticed them so early on. And from Lu Ping's expression, it was clear that he could clearly tell that the 5 disciples were from Yingshan Immortal Academy. What a frightening range of divine sense. At this moment, all the enlightened masters present sensed through their spiritual will that someone was approaching the passageway. They also sensed the cultivation of the 1st level blood condensation cultivator. The cultivators from the various sects looked at Yingshan Immortal Academy with complicated gazes. On the other hand, Enlightened Master Xian Fang and Enlightened Master Li Nan were overjoyed. When Tianyu, Du Jialua, and the others came out of the spatial tunnel, the number of people who returned from the Yingshan Immortal Academy had increased to 13. The 5 of them walked towards Venerable Xian Fang. They wanted to hand over all the spiritual herbs they had harvested from the Fist Valley to Venerable Xian Fang. Then, Venerable Xian Fang would sort out the spiritual herbs. With Debao's help, Du Jialua walked towards the fenced courtyard in the deepest part of the spatial tunnel. Along the way, he found a few spiritual herb gardens and harvested plenty of 500-year-old and 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs. Moreover, he was only at the 1st level of the blood condensation realm. Being able to harvest as much as a 3rd level blood condensation realm cultivator was already very good. As for the other 4 3rd level blood condensation realm cultivators, including Tianyu, their harvests were nothing to write home about. Taoist Xianfang looked at the total of 5,000 to 6,000 spirit grasses taken out by the 4 of them and was slightly disappointed. However, looking at the excited faces of the 5 of them, he thought that the 5 of them were excited because they had survived a disaster in the void space. Originally, he wanted to reprimand them, but he swallowed it back. A moment later, 2 disciples of the Gu family and 2 disciples of the Mountain Universe sect rushed out of the space tunnel in a sorry state. They were 4 of the 5 people who had joined forces to stop Senior Sun and the others. However, for some reason, one of the disciples of the Gu family was missing. When Du Jelua and the others used their talismans to break through the 5 people's obstruction, they were too anxious about the spatial tunnel's closing time. As a result, they did not know that Debao's talismans had killed one of the Gu family disciples. The 2 disciples of the Gu clan glared fiercely at Du Jialua and the other 4 disciples of the Yingshan Immortal Academy. They saw that Senior Brother Sun was also smiling at them. At the same time, he was whispering something to Taoist Xianfang beside him. Their expressions turned serious. They lowered their heads and walked towards the cultivators of their own families. The 2 Mountain Universe sect disciples were even more dejected. There was even a look of fear on their faces. Rumble. Muffled rumbling sounds could be heard. After 3 months, the spatial tunnel finally collapsed and closed again. The next time it reopened would be 300 years later. In this trip to the Fist Valley, Yingshan Immortal Academy had lost a total of 5 disciples. Among them, 2 were at the 2nd level of the blood condensation realm, and 3 were at the 1st level of the blood condensation realm. Of the 18 disciples from the Mountain Universe sect, 14 returned. However, 2 of them were spies from the Gu family. Of the 20 disciples from the Gu family, only 18 returned. As for the harvests, the various pill refiners had collected all the harvests the moment the disciples came out. Clearly, no one had any intention of revealing their harvests. On the Ying River, a large ship was sailing against the current. Lu Ping took out a small flag from his sleeve. It was the water-controlling flag that he had not used for a long time. Lu Ping held the small flag in his hand and waved it lightly. Instantly, the small flag turned into a 3-zhang tall sail. The sail moved without any wind, and the speed of the ship instantly doubled. Lu Ping nodded at Du Jialua and the 4 3rd-level blood condensation realm disciples. "The 4 of you follow me." After saying that, Lu Ping took the lead and walked towards the cabin. Xianfang was curious, so he followed behind Lu Ping. Although Li Nan was also curious about what Lu Ping had said to the 3rd-level blood condensation realm disciples, and why there was another 1st-level blood condensation realm disciple, he hesitated for a moment. In the end, he did not follow Lu Ping. Lu Ping paused at the door of the cabin. He turned around and smiled at Li Nan. "Brother Li, come in and take a look. There are some things that I need Brother Li's help with." Li Nan was stunned for a moment. Then, he said excitedly, I'll be right there." Inside the cabin, Xianfang asked impatiently, "Senior brother, what did you ask them to do in the space? Why is it that the few with the highest cultivation level have the same harvest as the others? Some of them are even worse than the others." Lu Ping smiled. "Junior brother, don't be impatient. Did the 5 of you find the secret places I told you about?" Senior Marshal Brother Sun took the lead and said, "Elder gave us several secret areas, but Disciple, Junior Marshal Brother Zhou, and Junior Marshal Brother Qian only managed to find 2 of them. The other places were blocked by space cracks, and disciples were unable to enter." After saying that, the 3 of them took out dozens of jade boxes that Lu Ping had given them from their storage artifacts. Xianfang let out a strange cry. "Jade crystal boxes? Did you guys find a 3,000-year-old spiritual herb in there? That's not right. If there are 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs in the space of the Fist Valley, why didn't the Ying He, Tao Universe, and Yingshan sects discover them after thousands of years?" Perfected Li Nan was shocked when he saw the jade crystal box. However, he considered one more thing. Previously, the space in Fist Valley had always been secretly controlled by Ying He and the other 2 factions. It was difficult for others to know what was going on inside, but Elder Xian Ping clearly knew about it. Why was that? Lu Ping noticed Li Nan's puzzled gaze. He did not explain but waved his sleeves and opened all the jade boxes. Xian Fang was so shocked that he almost coughed. It's indeed 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. There's almost 2,000 of them? Moreover, this is the double ice leaf, this is the scarlet flame grass, and there's also the rain leaf flower. These are all precious spirit herbs that are almost extinct in the cultivation world. Even among spirit herbs that are 3,000 years old, they are all extremely precious. Li Nan was already dumbfounded. If the Mountain Universe sect and the Gu clan found out about so many 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs, the two sects would probably join forces to attack the Yingshan Immortal Academy. Lu Ping's face was also filled with joy because he had found more than a dozen types of rare spirit herbs needed to concoct the spirit forging pellet among the spirit herbs. Lu Ping picked out all the spirit herbs and picked out about 400 of the spirit herbs that he needed. Then he pushed the remaining 1,500 spirit herbs to enlightened Master Xian Fang and said, "Junior martial brother, take these spirit herbs for now. You can pick some of them for practice in the future. As for the rest, give them to junior martial uncle Tianshan and ask him to keep them." Although Xian Fang was envious of these spiritual herbs, he quickly waved his hands and said, No, senior brother, I am only familiar with refining mid-core forging pills now. The 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs are not in my hands. It's better to leave them in senior brother's hands. Lu Ping smiled and picked out a few of the spiritual herbs that were easier to refine from Junling's legacy elixir. There were about 100 of them that were commonly used to refine half-step Dharma pills. He handed them to the flustered Xian Fang and said, "It's better to be prepared. The improvement of one's alchemy skills is built on the foundation of wasting large amounts of spiritual herbs." Seeing that Xian Fang still wanted to decline, Lu Ping said, "Don't worry and take them. You don't have to worry about the elixir pavilion. Since I made the decision, those two won't say anything." Xian Fang knew that the elixir pavilions that Lu Ping mentioned was not the Celestial Academy's elixir pavilion, but the elixir pavilion of Zhenling. That those two naturally referred to the two grandmasters, Tianlu Laozu and Tianqin Laozu. Only these two had the authority to handle the 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs in Zhenling. Xian Fang knew that Lu Ping had a lot of influence. Although he was not an alchemist trained by the elixir pavilion, he was still the third grandmaster alchemist in the sect. His position in the sect was very important. Since he wanted to hand these spiritual herbs to him, no one else would dare to say anything. Chapter 720. Although perfected Xian Fang did not reveal that Lu Ping was an alchemy grandmaster, he had repeatedly said that these 3,000-year-old herbs could only be used to their fullest potential when they were in Lu Ping's hands. Perfected Li Nan, who was at the side, was naturally stunned. Could it be that this powerful elder Xian Ping was also an alchemy grandmaster? And from what perfected Xian Fang had said, elder Xian Ping's alchemy skills were obviously above perfected Xian Fang's. Thinking back to how elder Xian Ping had managed to convince the two alchemy grandmasters of the Mountain Universe sect and the Gu family with just a few words, who else could have such skills besides an alchemy grandmaster? Once he thought of an alchemy grandmaster, perfected Li Nan felt his throat tighten. This was an alchemy grandmaster. In the cultivation world, just this identity alone was enough to be mentioned in the same breath as a Dharma adept. Also, who were the two people that Elder Xian Ping mentioned? Elder Xian Tian and Laozu of Tianshan? Obviously not, and from the tone of Elder Xian Ping's words, it was obvious that he had placed himself in the same position as the two people. In the Yingshan Immortal Academy, the only person who could be compared to an alchemy grandmaster was Laozu of Tianshan. No matter what, Elder Xian Tian was not qualified. Li Nan was also a quick-witted person. Otherwise, he would not have been entrusted with so many matters of the Immortal Academy by the old ancestor of Tianshan Mountain. A bold idea immediately emerged in his mind. Could the two that Elder Xian Ping mentioned be alchemy grandmasters like him? Even perfected Li Nan himself was shocked by this thought. But immediately, perfected Li Nan remembered a rumor about the Yingshan Immortal Academy that had been circulating in the Yingshan mountain range. It was said that the Yingshan Immortal Academy was not actually founded by Guotianshan Laozu. There was definitely another power supporting it, and the Yingshan Immortal Academy was just a tentacle of this power that had infiltrated the Yingshan mountain range. Towards this rumor, Perfected Li Nan had originally been skeptical, but now he was 70 to 80% sure that it was true. Perfected Master Li Nan was in a daze, and there was a hint of surprise in his daze, which naturally fell into Lu Ping and Perfected Master Xian Fang's eyes. Perfected Li Nan was instantly alerted. When he turned around to look, he saw Lu Ping looking at him with a faint smile. Perfected Li Nan heaved a long sigh of relief and said, "I was shocked by the generosity of these disciples. 2,000, 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs. How could Yinghe sect, Dao Universe sect, and Ying Mountain sect not discover any 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs after entering the Fist Valley's space more than 10 times? Lu Ping was not bothered by it and said with a smile, "They were just lucky to have obtained some ancient books passed down by the Ying Tian sect. From them, they were lucky enough to discover a hidden path hidden in a few space cracks. These disciples could be considered to have a narrow escape." After saying that, he looked at Du Jialua and Tianyu. Between the two of them, Tianyu had already found a hidden space with 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs before they met. Then he and Du Jialua followed Debao into the deepest part of the Fist Valley's space and found the Fengba courtyard. In the end, due to the lack of time, they could only pick more than 1,000 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs from the large spiritual herb garden around the Fengba courtyard. In addition to the spiritual herbs that Tianyu had found previously, there were close to 1,700 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs in total. Oh, so the two of you didn't manage to collect all the spiritual herbs in the deepest part of the space due to the lack of time. Not only did you leave behind a large number of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs, but you also didn't manage to collect many 3,000-year-old spiritual herbs in time? Lu Ping asked Tianyu in surprise. Although there was a little pity in his expression, there was also a hint of joy. "The few of you, hand over the beast swarms I gave you." Lu Ping made a few hand seals and a third-level blood condensation realm bee flew out from each of the 5 of them. After the 3 of them handed over 4 spirit beast pouches containing 50 bee swarms to Lu Ping, the buzzing of the bees suddenly sounded outside the cabin. Lu Ping casually opened the cabin door and 8 third-level blood condensation realm bees flew out. Suddenly, a 3-inch square gate that seemed to be made of gold appeared above Lu Ping's palm. All the bees lined up neatly and flashed through the gate. Footsteps sounded outside the cabin. The other 8 Immortal Academy disciples had obviously received Lu Ping's notice and came to the cabin together. After the 8 of them greeted the 3 enlightened masters, Lu Ping pointed with his finger and 13 golden talismans appeared in front of them. He said, "These are the talisman treasures that I made during my free time. They will be your reward for entering the space of the Fist Valley this time. Although these talisman treasures are different from each other, their power is more or less the same. Once they are used, even early-stage core forging cultivators will be heavily injured. They can be used to save your lives." The 13 talisman treasures not only shocked the 13 Immortal Academy disciples, but also Enlightened Master Xian Fang and Enlightened Master Li Nan were stunned by Lu Ping's generosity. Lu Ping looked at everyone's expression and smiled. He said, "After you return, you can go to Enlightened Master Xian Tao of the Immortal Academy to receive a high-grade magic tool each. You might not be able to use high-grade magic tools now, but you will be able to use them after you advance to the mid-stage blood condensation realm." Although the crowd did not know when Enlightened Master Xian Tao of the Immortal Academy appeared, and he seemed to be a tool refiner, a high-grade magic tool as a reward was enough for the disciples to cheer. One must know that in the North Sea, mid-stage blood condensation realm disciples were most commonly using mid-grade magic tools. Some disciples who were not doing well even used low-grade magic tools after advancing to the mid-stage blood condensation realm. Although the Middle Earth was rich, the Immortal Academy was still newly established. Even with Zhenling's support, they did not have the courage to let all the mid-stage blood condensation realm disciples use high-grade magic tools. Lu Ping looked at the disciples who were brimming with joy and nodded at Enlightened Master Xian Fang. Enlightened Master Xian Fang smiled and said, "With Senior Brother Xian Ping and Senior Brother Xian Tao as examples, my rewards are a little inferior. Enlightened Master Xianfang took out 13 jade bottles and distributed them to the disciples. He said, "These are 13 bottles of sea soul pills. Take them after you advance to the third layer of the blood condensation realm. It will help you break through the bottleneck of the third layer and advance to the mid-stage blood condensation realm." Everyone happily accepted it, and only then did they reluctantly leave the cabin. Enlightened Master Li Nan sighed. Elder Xianping is really generous. Even the disciples of the large sects are not as generous as you. Lu Ping smiled and said, "These disciples took the risk of dying in the space. Compared to the 5 disciples who died, they deserve these rewards." Lu Ping looked at senior brother's son and the other 4 disciples who were still in the cabin. He took out 5 jade bottles from his storage artifact and said, "These are the half caddy of monster honey I promised each of you. Although Du Jiao joined the mission halfway, he also has a share of the reward." Although the disciples accepted the bottles respectfully, they obviously did not know what the monster honey was for. Was it for drinking water? Enlightened Master Xianfang could not stand it anymore. One must know that Lu Ping's amethyst honey and amethyst royal jelly were handed over to the sect on a regular basis every year. The amethyst royal jelly was naturally divided between the 2 elders of the Pill Pavilion. As for the others, only the alchemy masters could get some. Compared to the preciousness of the amethyst royal jelly, Lu Ping handed over more amethyst honey to the sect. Moreover, most of the honey ended up in the hands of the alchemy masters of the sect. Enlightened Master Xianfang could get 2.5 caddy of amethyst royal jelly every year. This was because Enlightened Master Xianfang had the lowest qualification among the alchemy masters of the Zhenling sect. Even so, Enlightened Master Xianfang treasured the amethyst honey very much. It could be used as a panacea in alchemy. If the few of you really use this to drink water, it'll be a reckless waste of God's good gifts. If you don't need these things, take them to the alchemy room and exchange them for pills that you need for your own cultivation. But it's best to exchange for pills that are more useful for breaking through bottlenecks. Don't exchange for ordinary cultivation pills. This way, with half a caddy of amethyst honey, it will be enough for your cultivation to advance to the late blood condensation realm. Enlightened Master Xianfang's words made senior brother's son and the rest's eyes lit up. Only now did they know what kind of treasure the amethyst honey was. Lu Ping felt ashamed in his heart. In fact, most of the amethyst honey was used by Lu Ping to make tea. If Enlightened Master Xianfang, who saw it as a reckless waste of God's good gifts, knew what he would think. After sending the 5 away, Lu Ping smiled and said to Enlightened Master Xianfang, "Junior brother Xianfang, I still have a lot of amethyst honey. Since junior brother wants to use it for alchemy, you can take half a caddy." Enlightened Master Xianfang was overjoyed. He had long wanted to ask Lu Ping for some amethyst honey, but because of the grudge between them decades ago, Enlightened Master Xianfang was too embarrassed to ask. Lu Ping smiled and took out 2 jade bottles, one big and one small, from his storage artifact. The small jade bottle was made of chalcedony. Enlightened Master Xianfang's heart tightened when he saw the small chalcedony bottle with the amethyst honey. Lu Ping smiled and passed the 2 jade bottles to him. Enlightened Master Xianfang put the big jade bottle with the amethyst honey into his storage artifact. Holding the small chalcedony bottle in his hand, he suddenly stood up and bowed to Lu Ping. Senior brother's magnanimity is something Enlightened Master Xianfang cannot compare. Although perfected Li Nan on the side did not know what was in the small jade bottle, for an alchemy master who was used to seeing rare treasures to bow so solemnly, it was obvious that the item in the small jade bottle was extraordinary. At this moment, Lu Ping handed another jade bottle to Enlightened Master Li Nan. "Brother Li, take this bottle of monster honey. Treat it as a gift from your little brother to Brother Li." Enlightened Master Li Nan nodded his head. Enlightened Master Li Nan did not know about the amethyst honey, but from Enlightened Master Xianfang's reaction just now, he knew that the demonic honey was extraordinary. He said, "How can I take it? I don't know anything about alchemy. It's a waste for me to keep it." Lu Ping said, "Brother Li, you don't have to be so polite. Just take it." Lu Ping stuffed the bottle of amethyst honey into Enlightened Master Li Nan's hand. He then turned to the corner of the cabin and said, "Come out. Tell me, what else did you find in the space?" "Boss, you have to help me break the seal first." A rodent that looked like a ball rolled out from the corner of the cabin and complained. Chapter 721. Enlightened Master Li Nan had already noticed that when Elder Xian Ping brought the 5 disciples into the cabin, a blood condensation realm rat demon slid out from the sleeve of the early blood condensation disciple and hid in a corner of the cabin without making a sound. At that time, Lu Ping and Enlightened Master Xian Fong didn't say anything. Enlightened Master Li Nan was a smart person and naturally wouldn't point it out. It was just an early blood condensation realm rat demon. What could it do? However, when this rat demon ran out and spoke in the human language, Enlightened Master Li Nan couldn't help but be surprised. It wasn't because Debao could speak in the human language at the early blood condensation realm, but because Enlightened Master Li Nan could see that Debao's cultivation was actually sealed. What surprised Enlightened Master Li Nan was that this rat demon wasn't a high-level monster. It was the lowest-level spirit-seeking mouse. This kind of spirit-seeking mouse was usually at the late blood-refining realm at most. It was already considered heaven-defying for a spirit-seeking mouse to break through to the blood condensation realm. However, this spirit-seeking mouse was clearly not only at the early blood condensation realm. Lu Ping cast a few hand seals and a purplish-blue light shone on Debao's body. It was as if Debao's body was resonating. Before Debao could enjoy the feeling of regaining his core forging realm cultivation, he suddenly realized that his cultivation had only increased to the mid-blood condensation realm. Debao asked fearfully, "Boss, is there something wrong with your sealing technique? Why is your cultivation only at the mid-blood condensation realm and it's not moving anymore?" Lu Ping smiled and said, "Debao, do you want to recover your core forging realm cultivation base now and then drop from the second layer to the first layer? Or do you want to slowly recover your cultivation base this way so that you can strengthen your foundation and build a foundation for your future cultivation?" Debao asked cautiously, "Boss, didn't you say that even if my cultivation drops to the first level, I can still strengthen my foundation after cultivating again?" Lu Ping only said one sentence, "The latter can go further." Debao immediately jumped up and said, "Then of course it's the latter." It was hard for him to jump so high with such a fat and heavy body. However, he forgot to ask Lu Ping how long it would take if he used the latter method. "Since that's the case, let's cut the crap. Hurry up and show us what we've gained in the Fist Valley." Debao was very depressed that he couldn't return to his human form for the time being, but he still didn't dare to disobey Lu Ping's order. He took out a jade box from the storage pouch hanging from his neck. After opening it, there were 4 big and 6 small beads inside, each containing a dense qi. "Is this a spirit-gathering pearl? There are actually so many of them?" This time, Taoist Li Nan finally saw a treasure that he recognized. However, there seemed to be too many of these treasures appearing at once. Even Taoist Li Nan himself could not remember how many surprises he had received today. From the looks of it, there should be at least 4 medium-sized spiritual veins in the area formed by the spatial crack. No wonder there is such a large spiritual herb garden inside. So many spiritual veins have been nourishing these spiritual herbs for hundreds and thousands of years. Each of the 4 big spirit-gathering pearls could nurture a small spiritual vein, while the 6 small spirit-gathering pearls meant 6 small spiritual veins. Lu Ping kept the jade box and looked at Debao. "What else?" Debao took out dozens of jade boxes, which were filled with spiritual herbs that were thousands of years old. Most of them were 3,000 years old. It seemed that these spiritual herbs had been collected and preserved for thousands of years. Obviously, they were left behind by the disciples of the Yingtian sect who were guarding this space. Lu Ping scanned with his divine telekinesis and realized that most of the spiritual herbs had preserved their medicinal properties. Among them, there were many extremely rare spiritual herbs. There were also dozens of spiritual herbs that could be used to refine spirit-forging pills. Lu Ping did not hesitate and kept all the boxes in his storage artifact. "What else?" Debao complained. "Boss, there are some tools that can be used to cultivate spiritual herbs. Although there are many of these things, they are all magic tools. At most, they are top-grade magic tools. Moreover, most of them can't be used in battle. Debeo, I forgot to tell you. Using the second method to break the seal is equivalent to cultivating for the second time. Only when you reach the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm will you be able to break the second seal and advance to the late blood condensation realm. Similarly, only when you reach the peak of the 9th layer of the blood condensation realm will you be able to break the 3rd seal and advance to the core forging realm. Don't blame me for not reminding you that this time's cultivation is not a true recultivation. If you want to shorten the cultivation period by taking some kind of pill, it's possible. Boss, are you trying to trick me? Debeo shouted angrily. He took out another jade bowl from his storage artifact and said, Boss, let's use the first method. Being in the blood condensation realm is too stifling. Too late. Lu Ping took the jade bowl and looked at the bowl of clean water that emitted a fragrant aroma. Heaven and earth wonder water? Debeo hung his head dejectedly and said, Boss, you're lucky. This was found in a well in the fenced courtyard of the space grotto heaven. Debeo paused for a moment and said, that well is a place where spirit veins converge. There is an abundance of spirit energy in that well. However, there is a jade bowl hanging above the well. There is already a bowl of clean water in it. I can tell that this jade bowl is not ordinary, so I brought it back. Lu Ping first carefully examined the jade bowl in his hand, then looked at the clean water in it. He suddenly raised his head and said, You took this jade bowl away from the well. What else is in it now? Debeo smiled proudly and said, I knew it was a treasure. Nothing can escape my, Lu Debeo's, detection. Don't worry, boss. I've already placed another jade bowl on the water in the well. In fact, there is an identical jade bowl on the stone edge of the well. When I saw it, it was obvious that the 2 jade bowls were taking turns. Boss, the clean water in this jade bowl is obviously not ordinary, right? Do you think it's time for my cultivation to? Let's not talk about this anymore. I have my own plans. Give me the last item first. When Debeo heard Lu Ping's words, his expression changed. Then he cried out in surprise and jumped 2 steps back. He said, Boss, how did you know that I have one last treasure? And it's the most important treasure. Lu Ping glanced at Debeo and added on his behalf. I'm scared of you. This time, Debeo carefully took out a wooden box. When Lu Ping saw the wooden box, he was startled. When he held the wooden box in his hand, he saw the secret spirit sealing runes on the surface of the wooden box. For a moment, he was speechless. When spiritual master Xianfang saw this, he asked, Senior brother, do you already know what is in the box? Lu Ping nodded and turned to Debeo. Have you seen what is inside? Debeo shook his head and said, I can feel that the thing inside is extraordinary. However, the seal on the surface of the box is not something I can open. Lu Ping nodded and suddenly said, We've arrived at the Immortal Academy. I'll wait. Only then did Spiritual Master Li Nan and Spiritual Master Xianfang realized that the giant boat had returned to appear not far from the back mountain of the Yingshan Immortal Academy under the control of Lu Ping's water-controlling flag. Li Nan and Spiritual Master Xianfang naturally knew that Lu Ping was unwilling to tell them about the treasure inside the wooden box. Hence, they got up and walked towards Spiritual Master Lu Xinyuan and Spiritual Master Qi Zicai, who were welcoming the group back. On the pier, enlightened Master Lu Xinyuan sighed when he saw the 13 disciples disembarking. I've only managed to nurture a little over 20 blood condensation disciples in the past 10 years. In just 3 months, I've already lost 5. Qi Zicai smiled faintly and said, That's why those who survive can go further. Spiritual Master Lu Xinyuan nodded but did not say anything. However, there was a trace of sadness in his eyes. After greeting Lu Xinyuan and Qi Zicai, Lu Ping directly sat on De Grey's back and followed the river towards the forbidden area of the back mountain. Inside the rocky cavern, Lu Ping carefully placed the wooden box on the stone platform in front of him. He formed a few hand seals and rays of bluish-purple light flowed out like streams of water, washing away the seals on the wooden box's surface layer by layer. Lu Ping originally obtained the failing sex restriction-breaking secret technique. After that, he received guidance from Spiritual Master Liang Xianfeng. Later on, he obtained the complete inheritance of the 7-colored restriction breaking talisman from the Ing Tian dojo. Lu Ping's understanding of the restriction breaking secret technique had reached an extremely high level. Otherwise, Lu Ping would not have been able to make the 3-colored restriction breaking talisman in such a short time. In fact, Lu Ping could now make the 4-colored restriction breaking talisman, but the success rate was not high. Previously, Lu Ping estimated that a 3-colored restriction breaking talisman would be enough, so he did not give the only 4-colored restriction breaking talisman to Debeo. The seals on the surface of the wooden box became fainter and fainter until there was no trace of the seals on the surface of the wooden box. Finally, the wooden box cracked automatically with a crack. Lu Ping opened the wooden box and there were 3 golden pills of different sizes wrapped in spirit sealing talismans. Lu Ping let out a long breath and said, "It's really this thing." Lu Ping opened the 3 spirit sealing talismans and the 3 pills suddenly burst out with a strong vitality. This aura instantly filled the entire cultivation room of Lu Ping. If Lu Ping had not made a guess and set up a restriction in the entire cave, this vitality would have quickly spread to the entire forbidden area of the back mountain. The Wood Luan Golden Pill, it really was the Wood Luan Golden Pill. According to legend, it could be used to produce a large number of high-level spirit herbs in an extremely short time. It was a treasure that almost all Dharma adepts in the entire cultivation world coveted. It was also the innate magical power that almost caused the extinction of the Wood Luan race. 3 Wood Luan Golden Pills, 1 was in the early core forging realm, 1 was in the middle core forging realm, and the biggest one was in the late core forging realm. Chapter 722. In the blink of an eye, a year had passed. Lu Ping woke up from his closed-door cultivation. He smiled after scanning the stone room with his divine sense and opened the restriction on the stone room. Lu Taohua hopped in from outside the stone room. When she saw Lu Ping, she giggled and said, "Brother, shouldn't that jade bowl be given to Peach Blossom?" There was a jade bowl in front of Lu Ping. It was found by Debeo in the well in the fenced courtyard of the Fist Valley. Back then, there was a bowl full of clean water in the well. This bowl of clean water was a kind of heaven and earth oddity. It was a kind of strange water that could be used to improve the tripure true pupils. This kind of strange water was extremely rare. It was the water in the well that was nourished by the spiritual vein all year round. After that, it gradually condensed into a water essence. This water essence was different from the essence of Kuei water. It didn't have much effect when used to condense a protective aura. Instead, it was quite miraculous when used to cultivate other special techniques and abilities. This kind of water essence would normally evaporate after being formed in the well water. It was extremely difficult to collect. However, this jade bowl was a strange treasure. Although it was only condensed with a treasure restriction, it was quite effective in collecting some spiritual liquid and maintaining its special effect. Moreover, there must be a special formation left by the Ing Tian sect in the well to help this jade bowl condense the water essence. The scale of Lu Ping's spiritual herb garden in the House of Gold grew bigger and bigger. There were more and more types of spiritual herbs. Previously, Luan Yu took care of it, so Lu Ping basically didn't have to worry about it. After Luan Yu left with Laozu Wujiu, Lu Ping could only put part of his energy into the management of the spiritual herb garden. However, this situation allowed Lu Ping to regain his freedom after Lu Taohua transformed. Lu Taohua was the transformation of the spirit demon peach tree. Although she received the inheritance of the Longhuai ancestor, she had a quiet and elegant temperament. She naturally liked spiritual plants and flowers. Moreover, her talent was very beneficial to the growth of these plants. Therefore, Lu Ping gave her the task of managing the entire spiritual herb garden in the House of Gold. Lu Taohua obviously enjoyed it. After that, Lu Ping gave Lu Taohua all the books related to the cultivation of spirit herbs, flowers, and trees. He also taught her the concoction methods of the 100-flower dew, 1,000 fragrance dew, and a few other spirit liquids. All these years, Lu Taohua had been keeping Lu Ping's spirit herb garden in good order. Some of the 500-year-old spirit herbs had already begun to mature. A year ago, When Lu Ping was preparing to go into seclusion to absorb the water essence to improve his tri-pure true pupils, this little girl saw this jade bowl and clamored to take it away. Even though this jade bowl was rather miraculous, it was only an ordinary magic treasure that had been condensed with a single restriction in the end. Thus, he promised to give this jade bowl to her after he came out of his closed-door cultivation. Lu Ping knew that Lu Taohua wanted to use this jade bowl to collect the morning dew from the spiritual herb garden. The morning dew contains spiritual energy and the essence of plants. It was essential for cultivating all kinds of spiritual liquids. Lu Ping smiled as he watched Lu Taohua happily leave with the jade bowl. His eyes glowed brightly. Now that his 3 pure true pupils had condensed 6 types of mystical water, the effects of the 3 pure true pupils were even more prominent. Lu Ping took out a jade bottle and poured out 8 spirit-forging pills. After his trip to the Fist Valley, Lu Ping had collected a few more cauldrons of spirit herbs for the spirit-forging pellets. However, he didn't want to reveal the fact that he had the myriad wonder dew on him. Although he had refined 2 cauldrons of spirit-forging pellets and stabilized the success rate at 40%, Lu Ping didn't plan to hand over the 8 spirit-forging pellets to the sect. Including the 8 spirit-forging pills that Lu Ping had secretly left behind, he actually had 14 spirit-forging pills. However, Lu Ping didn't plan to concoct more. Aside from the fact that he couldn't use them for the time being, his alchemy skills were still improving. Although he already had a 40% success rate, spirit-forging pellets were far more valuable than Avatar Realm medicinal pellets. Therefore, concocting a large number of spirit-forging pellets was still not worth it. After making so many, Lu Ping also realized that the spirit-forging pill was not as powerful as he had imagined it to be. There was a limit for cultivators to condense spirit objects. They could only increase the number of spirit objects they needed by 2 grades each time. These 2 grades limited the number of spirit objects a cultivator could smelt. Even the spirit-forging pill could not do anything about this. The so-called spirit-forging pill could increase the grade of the spirit objects that a cultivator smelted. It referred to a cultivator who, due to various reasons, could not reach the requirement of reaching 2 grades of spirit objects. For example, if a cultivator smelted a low-grade earth spirit object for the first time, then the second time he smelted a high-grade earth spirit object. This limit meant that no matter how many spirit-forging pills a cultivator took, he would not be able to break through. Moreover, each cultivator could only take 3 spirit-forging pills. However, because of various accidents, this cultivator's strength was only enough to refine a mid-grade earth step spirit object. Thus, the significance of the spirit-forging pill was revealed. It could help a cultivator reach the highest grade of spirit objects that could be refined. When Jiang Tianlin Laozu advanced to the late stage of core forging, he smelted 2 high-grade earth spirit objects. When he smelted a spirit object for the 3rd time, with his strength at that time, he could only smelt 1 mid-grade heaven spirit object. However, because of the 2 spirit-forging pills, Jiang Tianlin Laozu managed to smelt 2 mid-grade heaven spirit objects in one go and formed a high-grade golden core among the 8th-grade spirit objects. The same was true for Lu Tianling Laozu. Originally, Lu Tianling Laozu could only smelt 2 low-grade heaven spirit objects like Xianling Sek's Feng Shutao, and Feng Shutao's strength was even higher than Lu Tianling Laozu's. However, after taking the 2 spirit-forging pills, Lu Tianling Laozu managed to smelt 3 low-grade heaven spirit objects in one go and barely formed a 8th-grade golden core. After advancing to the transcendent stage, Lu Tianling was able to suppress Feng Shutao. The second function of the spirit-forging pill was to shorten a cultivator's cultivation time. Chu Xuanqing, Liang Xianfeng, Guo Xianshan, and the fallen spiritual master Li Xianyin originally needed to accumulate a large amount of time to smelt low-grade heaven spirit objects. However, after taking the spirit-forging pill, they all formed a 7th-grade golden core ahead of time and advanced to the transcendent stage. Even so, the effect of the spirit-forging pill was enough to make the entire cultivation world go crazy. It was no wonder that Fei Ling Sek's destruction was attributed to the spirit-forging pill. However, when he thought of the spirit-forging pill, Lu Ping had a new idea. The North Sea was barren. Even if Fei Ling sect had the method to refine the spirit-forging pill, there were two constraints. The first was naturally the dozens of extremely rare 3,000-year-old spirit herbs that were used to refine the spirit-forging pill. These spirit herbs were almost extinct in the cultivation world, but Ying Tian sect's Fist Valley had planted a large amount of these spirit herbs. Ying Tian sect was Fei Ling sect's ally in the Middle Earth back then. Could it be that the two sects had a secret agreement about the spirit-forging pill? Thinking of this, Lu Ping unconsciously thought of the Wonder Dew of 10,000. In fact, the real key to refining the spirit-forging pill was the Wonder Dew of 10,000, the rare and almost extinct spirit herbs. The real factor was still the Wonder Dew of 10,000. Every refining of the spirit-forging pill required a drop of the Wonder Dew of 10,000. Although there were a total of 36 drops of the Wonder Dew of 10,000, the rarity of the Wonder Dew of 10,000 was even higher than some high-grade heaven-rank spirit items. Then, where did the Wonder Dew of 10,000 that Fei Ling sect needed to refine the spirit-forging pill come from? The Wonder Dew of 10,000 was not like those spirit herbs that could be obtained through meticulous cultivation. It was a spirit item of heaven and earth that was nurtured by the heavens and earth. Obtaining it depended entirely on luck. Who knew where such a rare treasure could be found? However, Lu Ping immediately thought of the East Sea's perished secret grounds, the Seven Stars Grotto Heaven's Golden Canyon, and the pool of 10,000 poison liquid in his house of gold. Lu Ping's heart was in turmoil. Could it be that the birth of spirit items of heaven and earth could really be controlled through some kind of method? Lu Ping pinched his fingers and counted the time. It was time for perfected Lu Xinyuan to return to the North Sea. Lu Ping rummaged through his interspatial mystic instrument and found a bunch of things. These were the things he wanted to get rid of enlightened Master Lu Xinyuan and bring to Hu Lili and his friends. Although Junling had secretly mastered the ultra-long-distance teleportation array, and after perfected Xuanzhen's modification, it could now teleport 5 people at once. However, each teleportation required 2 top-grade spirit stones. This was still a huge expense for Junling, who was now much richer. In addition, the other end of the teleportation array was located in the territory of the demon race. Therefore, every time Junling used the teleportation array, they were extremely cautious. Although Lu Ping now had 5 or 6 top-grade spirit stones in his hands, he was reluctant to spend them on the teleportation array. This time, in addition to perfected Lu Xinyuan, there were 2 other core forging stage cultivators who came with perfected Lu Xinyuan. The other person was actually perfected Li Nan. After many years of testing, perfected Li Nan was finally accepted as a registered disciple by Guotian Shan Laozu. Guotian Shan allowed him to return to the North Sea to practice a more complete cultivation method. This was an opportunity for him. Perfected Li Nan was able to rely on an incomplete and not very good cultivation method to cultivate all the way to the 6th layer of core forging. It could be seen that his aptitude, perception, and perseverance were all good. The only thing he lacked was an opportunity. This time, Laozu accepted him as a registered disciple was an opportunity for him to go further. Now that Junling's foundation was far from what it used to be, it was not too difficult to find a suitable cultivation method for him. Of course, for people like perfected Li Nan, even if they became Junling's official disciple, they would not have the opportunity to practice a true cultivation method. However, perfected Li Nan did not have such extravagant hopes. He was already very satisfied to be able to advance to the late core forging stage. However, after perfected Li Nan went to the North Sea this time, he would no longer have the opportunity to return to the Central Plains. This was a rule that Junling had set when Yingshan Immortal Academy was first established. Yingshan Immortal Academy could only be an extension of Junling's influence. All the outstanding disciples it nurtured had to be sent to the North Sea, and Yingshan Immortal Academy could never be controlled by a Central Plains disciple. Perfected Li Nan did not care about this. All he wanted was to improve his cultivation. It did not matter where he went. At this time, he was still immersed in the excitement and shock of becoming a disciple of Tianshan Laozu and finding out about Junling. The last place was given to a disciple who had just advanced to the 4th layer of the blood condensation realm. Lu Ping raised his eyebrows. He knew this disciple. He was one of the third-layer blood condensation realm disciples who had entered the Fist Valley. Now that he had advanced to the fourth layer of the blood condensation realm, he had the qualifications to become Zhenling's disciple. Hence, he was sent back to the North Sea. Lu Ping was a little surprised. Although the Immortal Academy would not let the local disciples take charge, there was no need to send them to the North Sea so quickly. Moreover, the original plan was to send the local disciples to the North Sea once they advanced to the core forging stage. Why was it so urgent now? Chapter 723. Although Lu Ping found it strange, he was just a mid-blood condensation realm minor repairs, so he didn't take it to heart. Instead, perfected Lu Xianyuan pointed at the disciple and said, "Come and greet your uncle Master Xianping." The disciple quickly stepped forward and said, "Disciple Sun Zichuan greets Uncle Master Xianping." Lu Ping was taken aback, then he smiled and said, "So you've accepted a disciple, senior brother? I was wondering why he wanted to return to the North Sea so quickly. So he's going back with senior brother." Lu Ping didn't mind at first, but after hearing that Sun Zichuan was perfected Lu Xuanyuan's disciple, he took a closer look and smiled. "Your foundation is not bad, and you're cultivating the fifth earth true body technique that made Uncle Master Tian Kong famous. It's quite similar to senior brother's cultivation technique. No wonder senior brother took a liking to him." As Lu Ping spoke, he took out a jade bottle from his storage artifact and said, "The fifth earth true body technique is one of the few techniques in our sect that doesn't have a high requirement to enter the Dharma manifestation realm. However, this technique has a high requirement for the cultivator's physical body. This jade bottle contains a type of spiritual liquid that I concocted many years ago. It's a pity that it's not very useful for core forging cultivators, but it's quite effective for blood condensation cultivators." Lu Ping looked at Sun Zichuan, who was looking at perfected Lu Xianyuan, unsure whether he should accept the gift or not. Lu Ping directly threw the jade bottle into Sun Zichuan's hands and said, "There's a total of 36 drops of spiritual liquid in this bottle. Every time you immerse your entire body in the water, drop 9 drops of spiritual liquid. After 4 times, your physical body will be greatly strengthened, and your cultivation of the fifth earth true body technique will definitely be twice the result with half the effort." When enlightened Master Lu Xianyuan heard that Lu Ping's bottle of spiritual liquid could actually strengthen his body, he immediately wanted to reject it. Enlightened Master Li Nan and the others were shocked. However, when they heard that the bottle of spiritual liquid could only be used by blood condensation realm cultivators, they couldn't help but show a regretful expression. Clearly, everyone knew what it meant to strengthen a cultivator's body. Reverend Lu Xianyuan chuckled at Sun Zichuan and said, "If it's someone else giving you a gift, I might have to reject it. However, since it's a gift from your uncle Master Xianping, you should just accept it. Otherwise, you'd be letting down his title of Boy of Many Treasures. Your uncle Master's methods aren't something an ordinary person can match up to. Moreover, this bottle of spiritual liquid is indeed very beneficial for your cultivation of the fifth earth true body technique." Sun Zichuan hurriedly thanked Lu Ping. Perfected Li Nan was already familiar with Lu Ping's endless methods, so when he heard Sun Zichuan's words, he had a look of agreement. This spiritual liquid was actually a failed product of Lu Ping's attempt to create a new type of spiritual liquid. Originally, he had used the juice of the golden nuts and the spirit demon peaches, and then mixed it with various other plant essences in different proportions. Originally, he had wanted to use it for himself, but it didn't seem to have any effect on him. Instead, he had wasted a golden toughness pill and a spirit demon peach. Fortunately, these things weren't completely wasted. At least they could be used on blood condensation adepts. The tide of Mara had caused a huge disaster to the training world on the north bank of the Yulon River. Many unranked clans had been wiped out by the combined forces of the Azuras and the Shioma demonic cultivators. Even some of the clans that had barely reached the level of a small-scale power had their gates broken through, and countless of their disciples had died. Even mid-sized clans like the Gu clan had lost their Dharma adepts. It was clear to see how terrifying this tide of Mara had been. On the north bank of the Yulon River, The only sect that didn't suffer any losses during the Mara disaster was the spiritual martial sect. After the spiritual martial sect displayed their full strength to the cultivators of Hebei, they no longer hid their strength and bided their time. Instead, they sent messengers to communicate with the Holy Lands, preparing to establish their status as a large sect. Once the spiritual martial sect confirmed their status as a large sect, the spiritual martial sect would be the only large sect in Hebei. According to the rules of the Great Calamity, the entire Middle Earth would be led by the 5 great holy lands to wage a great war against the devil Luo. The various large forces were the spokesmen that the 5 great holy lands used to deploy the various cultivation forces in the Middle Earth. They would receive the full support of the 5 great holy lands, so the spirit martial sect could take this opportunity to clean up the entire Hebei cultivation world and establish their own position in the Hebei cultivation world. The Hebei cultivation world must become a pile of loose sand. Otherwise, if the spiritual martial sect succeeds, then once the Immortal Academy rises, our sect will definitely be suppressed by the combined forces of the various sects under the spiritual martial sect. We might even be suppressed by the 5 holy lands. Then, it will be difficult for our sect to establish a foothold in the Middle Earth. Liang Tianfeng Laozu paused for a moment, then continued, "The Middle Earth is rich and populous. In just a dozen years, other than the fact that the Immortal Academy's own system is not complete, it has already become self-sufficient in cultivation resources. It has even supported our sect with a batch of spirit herbs and low-grade spirit materials. Our sect must not give up on establishing a sphere of influence in the Middle Earth. Just look at the Crystal Palace and you will know how difficult it is for overseas forces to establish a sphere of influence in the Middle Earth. The Heavenly Moon sect has blocked the Crystal Palace for thousands of years, and one of the 5 holy lands behind the Heavenly Moon sect, the Avalon of 5 Elements, has yet to make a move. One must know that the Crystal Palace is a huge sect that is as famous as the 5 holy lands of the Middle Earth. Therefore, the spiritual martial sect must fail this time. Not long after sending off Taoist Master Lu Xianyuan, the various sects in the Hebei cultivation world joined hands to encircle and annihilate Mara was getting closer and closer. Taoist Master Liang Tianfeng, who had been traveling in the Hebei cultivation world for a year, had finally returned. The few Laozu once again sat together to discuss, while Lu Ping, Xian Tian, Xian Bei, and Xian Yu, the 4 late-stage core forging 3rd-generation disciples of Zhenling, were also present. Taoist Master Xian Kai had taken over Taoist Master Lu Xuanyuan's position as the Mountain Elder of the Immortal Academy, so she was able to participate. After listening to Liang Tianfeng Laozu's analysis of the situation in the entire Hebei cultivation world, as well as his opinion of the spirit martial sect, Guotianshan Laozu smiled and said, "Originally, I had planned to let junior brother Tiancheng oversee the Immortal Academy. Senior brother Liang and the old man, one in the open and one in the dark, would first plot against the various sects Laozu, causing the various sects to fight against each other. Now, it seems that the situation has become even more complicated." Chu Tiancheng Laozu's eyes lit up as he laughed and said, "Lock the mountain gate tightly, then tighten the mountain gate." After the old man advanced to the Dharma phase, his hands were itchy. This time, it would be good to see the methods of the Dharma phase cultivators of the Central Plains. Liang Tianfeng Laozu also nodded and said, "Fortunately, the other sects, especially the few powerful medium-sized forces, would definitely not want the spirit martial sect to become a large force and be under its control. This is our chance. However, this time, we will just muddy the waters and let the various sects and the spirit martial sect fight to the death. It would be best if all the cultivators from other places who came to encircle Mara were also involved. The more chaotic the situation is, the more advantageous it is for us. There are cultivators from other regions participating in the encirclement of Mara?" Lu Ping asked in surprise. Among the few 3rd-generation disciples present, only Lu Ping had the right to interrupt the conversation of the 3 Laozu. Liang Tianfeng Laozu smiled and said, "That's not surprising. Although it is dangerous to encircle Mara, it is also a great opportunity. You are also someone who has fought with the demonic cultivators and the Shura, so you must have obtained a lot of good things from them, right? Lu Ping thought of the weapons condensed from the essence of the various attributes on the Shura's body, especially the blood Shura of the Dharma phase. Each of their weapons had the power of a spirit treasure, which was obviously a great temptation for the Dharma phase cultivators. Although the blood Shura's weapons had to go through some complicated processes before they could be used by the cultivators, to be able to have a quasi-spirit treasure with him, this time it was all worth it. As for the treasures on the Dharma phase blood demons, Lu Ping only knew about the soul crystal. As for the other things, Lu Ping did not know, because the body of the blood demon that he and Jiang Tianlin Laozu had attacked had been taken away by Jiang Laozu. At this time, Guotianshan Laozu turned to Lu Ping and said, "This time, the encirclement of Mara was proposed by the spiritual martial sect and the other 5 strongest medium-sized forces, and the 12 small forces in the Hebei cultivation world all responded to it. The Celestial Academy is now one of the 12 small forces in the Hebei cultivation world, so the Celestial Academy will also have to send at least 1 late core forging adept and 1 Dharma adept to encircle Mara. That will be the 2 of us." Beside him, Shen Jinren said with some surprise, "The 18 families will each send 1 Dharma adept. Doesn't that mean there are 18 Dharma Laozu?" Guotanshan Laozu laughed and said, "More than that? The 12 small forces will each send 1 Dharma Laozu, and the 5 medium-sized forces will send 1 mid-Dharma adept and 1 early Dharma adept for a total of 2 Laozu. As for the spiritual martial sect, as the main initiator of this operation, there will be 3 Laozus. One of them, a late Dharma adept, Wu Lingfeng, will be the leader of this encirclement of Mara." When everyone heard this lineup, they all gasped. Xianbei Jinren murmured, "With a total of 25 Dharma Laozus, what can't they flatten with such a lineup?" Liang Tianfeng Laozu looked at his disciple with dissatisfaction and said, "You find it hard to believe? Sigh. No wonder, it is indeed rare to see such a grand event in the North Sea. However, this does not include those who volunteered to participate in this operation, as well as those who came from other regions. Otherwise, the scale of this operation would be even larger." 3 days later, the Yingshan Immortal Academy announced that they would be sealing their mountain and activating the protective array. They left behind 3 late core forging adepts, Shen Jinren, Shenbei Jinren, and Xuanyu Jinren to guard the sect. The Mountain Universe sect also sealed their mountain. The Mountain Universe sect only had 1 Dharma adept, Yu Shang Laozu. After taking away 1 or 2 late core forging adepts, the Mountain Universe sect had no choice but to seal their mountain. Liang Tianfeng and Chu Tiancheng, the 2 Laozus, had already left the Immortal Academy. Guotianshan Laozu and Yushang Laozu met up with the Gu clan adepts and headed in the direction of the spiritual martial sect. At this time, Lu Ping was swimming along the Ying River, admiring the beautiful scenery on both sides of the river. When he heard that one of the 2 Dharma adepts that the Gu clan had sent out was actually Gu Chang Laozu, he had decisively requested to act alone. Although Lu Ping was very confident in his ability to disguise himself, he did not have much confidence in facing a mid-Dharma adept. The Ying River was a tributary of the Yulon River. The Ying River meandered down for thousands of miles before merging into the Yulon River. When he thought of the Yulon River, Lu Ping thought of the Koizhinren who had fallen at his hands, as well as the secret map that he had obtained from the Koizhinren. Chapter 724. The Shura was bloodthirsty and the demonic cultivator devoured souls. In fact, the Shura and the demonic cultivator had another big hobby, and that was spirit devouring. That was why there was a saying in the cultivation world, Mara spirit devouring. Therefore, when the Shura and the demonic cultivator stopped wreaking havoc in the cultivation world and escaped to somewhere far away or gathered in one place, it meant that the place where Mara stayed must have a spirit vein gathering. The higher the number of demonic luos gathered at a location, the higher the quality of the spirit vein there would definitely be. The higher the quality of the spirit vein, the more abundant the cultivation resources produced by the spirit vein would be. There might even be spirit stone veins among them. At the intersection of the Yulon River and the Ying River, The terrain of this area was much lower than the surrounding plains. Every time the flood season of the Yulon River and the Ing River arrived, this area would become the place where the two rivers would flood. Over time, this place would become a swamp, and the Yulon River would split into several small streams that flowed into the Yulon River. And after the Shura and demonic cultivators that were wreaking havoc in Hebei were repelled by the cultivators of the various sects, they gathered in groups in this wetland called the Inyu Swamp. This time, the battle for the spirit vein was also one of the goals of the various sects to encircle Mara. Moreover, with so many Shura and demonic cultivators gathered in this swamp, most cultivators believed that there was at least a large spirit vein hidden in this swamp. Otherwise, it would be impossible for so many Mara to be attracted to this place. On the 9th of September, the various sects of the Hebei cultivation world gathered outside the Inyu swamp and began to encircle the demonic cultivators and Shura hidden in the swamp. Before this, there were already cultivators continuously gathering towards a small town called Chihi Town outside the swamp. The small town was bustling with noise because most of the Dharma cultivators from the various sects in Hebei would meet at the spiritual martial sect and then head towards the Inyu swamp. Chihi Town had instead become a gathering place for all sorts of rogue cultivators and small groups. After Lu Ping's arrival, many places in the small town had been opened up by the cultivators as a place for private transactions. They were taking advantage of the great movement of the entire Hebei region's cultivation world to exchange for what they needed. Lu Ping was rather interested in this sort of marketplace that was like a marketplace for mortals. With his current knowledge and experience, even ordinary Dharma adepts might not be able to match up to him. Everyone was curious and hoped to pick up some hidden treasures from these marketplaces. Naturally, Lu Ping was no exception. However, Lu Ping was still a little cautious when he looked at the small town in front of him. This kind of trading market was formed spontaneously because there wasn't a strong force presiding over it. Hence, the order was often extremely chaotic. There were even cases of people turning against each other and refusing to acknowledge their debts. Here, strength was often the key. Lu Ping laughed involuntarily. Although he was alone and in the eyes of outsiders, he might be an easy target to bully, but with his current strength, as long as it was not a Dharma adept, he would not care about 3 to 5 ordinary late core forging adepts. If there really was someone who did not open his eyes, he would just send them away. This was because most of the cultivators here were prepared to follow after Laozu and enter the Inyu swamp to take advantage of the situation. However, the Inyu swamp was filled with danger. The danger inside was not only from Mara, but also from the ferocious beasts and even demons hidden in the swamp. Therefore, this spontaneous marketplace was mostly filled with all sorts of healing, recovery, and antidotes. There were also all sorts of treasures, talismans, and other items that could temporarily increase a cultivator's strength. Of course, there were also all sorts of other cultivation items, but compared to these two, there were far fewer. Before the Inyu swamp was occupied by Mara, it had been a buffer zone between the human race and the Yulon River demon race. There were many ferocious beasts that had yet to gain sentience but were extremely powerful. There were even rumors that the spirit-taming sect's cultivators had once appeared in the Inyu swamp. However, the Inyu swamp was also a treasure trove. Throughout the years, it had attracted a large number of adventuring cultivators in search of various cultivation resources. This time, the North Sea's cultivation world had entered the Inyu swamp on a large scale. In addition to encircling Mara and searching for the large spirit veins and cultivation resources Mara had occupied, another important reason was to completely occupy the Inyu swamp and expel the demon race's forces, turning it into the territory of Hebei's cultivation world. Lu Ping casually strolled through the small town, inspecting the various stalls set up on both sides of the road. Naturally, there were very few items that caught Lu Ping's attention. Although there were a few items that Lu Ping felt were worth it, there were also a few stocks of 1,000-year-old spiritual herbs and top-grade spiritual materials. Although they had been mistaken as low prices, Lu Ping would not take advantage of them. At this moment, Lu Ping's face showed a hint of helplessness. He looked around and found that no one was paying attention to him. Then, he walked towards a remote corner of the town. After a while, when Lu Ping came out again, he was followed by two excited young girls. On Lu Ping's shoulder was a fat mid-stage blood condensation realm rat demon. These two young girls were Lu Taohua and Lu Qina. Lu Qina had always been a lawless person. She couldn't bear the loneliness of staying in the House of Gold for a long time. Lu Taohua, on the other hand, had never seen the prosperity of the human world. She was tempted by Lu Qina's words, so she wanted to come out and take a look. Although Lu Ping was helpless, he didn't want his spirit pet to be a canary in a cage. He could only let the two of them play behind him. However, to prevent their identities from being leaked, especially Lu Qina's identity as a spirit demon, Lu Ping gave them 2 demon transformation chakrams. The magical thing about the demon transformation chakram was that when a transformed demon cultivator wore it, they wouldn't be exposed. When a human cultivator wore it, the demon cultivator would think that they were the same kind. Lu Ping originally had 3 demon transformation chakrams, but Jiang Tianlin took one from him when he left the North Sea. It was said that his teacher, Lu Tianling, wanted to use it. Lu Ping naturally didn't dare to neglect it, so he only had 2 left. Lu Qiner and Lu Qiner played with Debao in the small town. When they saw so many cultivators setting up stalls and selling all kinds of items, they couldn't help but become interested. They focused all their attention on the stalls on both sides of the street. Lu Ping followed behind the 3 of them and let them play. He also wanted to take the opportunity to test their knowledge. The cultivators setting up stalls around were all people with good taste. When they saw that Lu Ping was following behind them calmly and didn't point out anything, they all thought that Lu Qiner and Lu Qiner were rich young ladies who went out to play. They secretly thought that they might be a fat sheep, so they all called them over to their stalls to have a look and encouraged them to buy all kinds of cultivation items from their stalls. Unexpectedly, the 2 sisters were so easy to fool. Although Lu Qiner was the strongest in terms of cultivation techniques, she was the worst in terms of knowledge. However, she had followed Lu Ping for a long time and had seen a lot of things. Lu Qiner had been in human form for 10 years and took care of the spiritual herb garden for Lu Ping. Lu Ping had given her a lot of ancient books about spiritual herbs. In addition, she was a spiritual peach tree, so she was naturally able to distinguish between good and bad spiritual herbs. There was no need to mention Debao. Debao had been with Lu Ping for the longest time and was also the most trusted by Lu Ping. He had seen most of the treasures Lu Ping obtained. Therefore, it could be said that among all of Lu Ping's spiritual pets, Debao's strength was the worst, but his knowledge was the best. Many cultivators tried to pass off some things as high-grade items, but they were all exposed by Lu Qiner and the others on the spot, making these people embarrassed. There were also those who flew into a rage out of humiliation. However, before they could vent their anger, Lu Qiner's aura surged and her mid-core forging cultivation erupted. Many of the surrounding cultivators who were jeering shut their mouths. It was not that no one could deal with Lu Qiner, but how old did Lu Qiner look? At such a young age, she had such an amazing cultivation. If she didn't have a tyrannical background, who would believe it? At this time, everyone remembered that Lu Ping was following behind this little sister, but he didn't speak. When they swept him with their divine sense, they found that the person in front of them was like a boundless sea. They couldn't see the bottom, and only felt that he was unfathomable. Everyone put away their thoughts of deceiving them and began to introduce some valuable things to the 2 of them. This time, Lu Qiner couldn't distinguish them. However, although Lu Qiner couldn't distinguish them, there was little Peach Blossom next to her. Although Lu Taohua hadn't been in human form for long, she could keep her heart. She had been in human form for 10 years. On weekdays, she took care of Lu Ping's spiritual grass garden and read some ancient books on spiritual plants collected by Lu Ping. In addition, Lu Taohua was a spirit beast in human form, so she was very sensitive to spiritual materials such as plants. Since she didn't know something, she could distinguish between good and bad through her qi talent. After a few rounds of negotiation, not only did Lu Taohua not lose out, but she also picked up a lot of things. For example, she mistook a 1,000-year-old spiritual grass for a 500-year-old one, and some spiritual grass that were very similar but had opposite medicinal properties. She could even distinguish between some spiritual materials such as plants. If there was something that even Lu Taohua couldn't identify, then it would be Debao's time to perform. However, Debao was only a mid-blood condensation demon beast that hadn't transformed yet, so he didn't dare to openly appraise these items. He only secretly transmitted his voice to Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua. The two of them walked half a street and even picked up a few 3,000-year-old spiritual grass. However, Lu Qiner was a talkative person. She didn't keep it to herself and instead showed off proudly. This made the cultivators who sold the spiritual grass to them very depressed. If it weren't for the fact that they were afraid of the two beautiful girls in front of them, these people might have beaten them up on the street and taught them a lesson. Lu Ping looked at the two of them and smiled bitterly. Although the cultivators who were picked up by the two of them seemed to have admitted defeat, Lu Ping didn't think that these people would give up just like that. Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua had made dozens of transactions along the way and spent hundreds of thousands of spirit stones. This kind of wealth was enough to make people want to take the risk. Lu Ping wasn't afraid of these people. He just found it troublesome. However, looking at the two girls' excited expressions, Lu Ping didn't have the heart to interrupt them. Chapter 725. Although Lu Ping had seen thousands of 3,000-year-old spirit herbs in the Fist Valley, and although the Central Plains was much richer than the North Sea, 3,000-year-old spirit herbs were considered treasures to any cultivator. For those core forging and blood condensation cultivators, their value was even higher. With Debao's help, Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua actually managed to pick up a dozen 3,000-year spirit herbs from the pile of miscellaneous items. For those blood condensation realm cultivators and early core forging realm cultivators who thought they were 1,000-year or even 500-year spirit herbs, this was undoubtedly a bolt from the blue. The corners of their eyes twitched uncontrollably. A few cultivators, who seemed to be a group, slowly followed behind the two little girls. Although the two little girls' cultivation bases were not low, these people were obviously used to sneak attacks. Clearly, they were not afraid of some rookie cultivators who were stronger than them but had underestimated the dangers of the cultivation world. As for the forces behind them, they were originally rogue cultivators who had fled to the ends of the earth. After doing this, who could do anything to them? However, to be these two girls, the young man behind them was an eyesore. Flower protector? Although they couldn't see through his cultivation level, the disciples of these large forces had a lot of treasures on them. Moreover, they were often people with high standards but low abilities. It was a good opportunity to do this business together. However, before these people could surround Lu Ping inadvertently coughed twice. Suddenly, these people stopped in their tracks. Their eyes suddenly popped out, and then they stood motionlessly in the middle of the street. The five of them had originally formed a semicircle around Lu Ping and were slowly moving towards him from behind. Previously, they didn't notice the crowd on the street, but now that the five of them had suddenly stopped in the middle of the street, they blocked most of the street. Hey, don't block the way. What are you standing here for? Sir, please move aside. I have urgent matters to attend to. The five cultivators continued to ignore him. As a temporary gathering point for the cultivators from Hebei province to charge into Rich Jade Swamp, the number of cultivators gathered here was not small. In just a moment, over 20 cultivators were blocked in the middle of the street. Most of these cultivators were rogue cultivators. They might not be strong, but they were ferocious enough. Otherwise, how could they have survived until now? Those who made a living on the edge of a knife would have killed a few people, and how many of them were good-tempered? Someone immediately started cursing, and a few hot-tempered ones pushed the five of them. Plop, thump, Psst. The five of them were pushed to the ground almost at the same time. Only then did everyone realize that something was wrong with the five of them. Their eyes were wide open and protruding, and their ears were bleeding. Were they dead? The onlookers immediately felt a chill run down their spines. These five people had obviously been ambushed at the same time while walking on the street, but the way they died was too strange. How could they suddenly die in an instant? There were quite a few experts among the onlookers, but they knew that with their own abilities, they would definitely not be able to do this. Some of the more observant people immediately realized that the position where the 5 of them had been standing before seemed to be secretly surrounding and ambushing someone. However, it was clear that they had kicked an iron plate and lost their lives in the process. Some quick-witted people immediately thought of the 2 girls who had caused a sensation on the street just now. Could it be that these 5 people wanted to rob those 2 girls, but were killed by them without batting an eyelid? In the distance on the street, there were still quite a few cultivators who had set up stalls, eagerly greeting the 2 girls. Although these 2 girls had vicious eyes, they were generous. As long as they took a look at something, they would basically be able to pay a reasonable price. Of course, if the cultivators who set up the stalls were blind and sold a 3,000-year-old spiritual herb as a 500-year-old spiritual herb, they would naturally be happy to take advantage of it. There were quite a few people who had ideas about the 2 girls. However, after seeing the fate of these 5 people, they decisively gave up on their previous thoughts. When a knowledgeable cultivator saw the 5 people who had fallen to the ground, he was immediately surprised and said, "Aya, isn't this the 5 tigers of Mount Xing? The spirit martial sect has offered a bounty of 1,000,000 spirit stones and 3 spirit communication magic treasures to take the lives of these 5 people. How could they die on the streets and not want the bounty of the spirit martial sect? Well, these are the 5 notorious bandits of the 5 tigers of Mount Xing? Aya, that's true. How could he die here? The strength of 5 middle-stage core forging cultivators. Some of the people who had ulterior motives were even more terrified. These 5 tigers of Mount Xing were quite famous existences among the rogue cultivators of the core forging stage in the Hebei cultivation world. Legend has it that each of these 5 people had reached the middle stage of the core forging stage, and the leader had even reached the peak of the 5th level of the core forging stage. These 5 people had been doing some business in the Hebei cultivation world all year round, causing many forces in the Hebei cultivation world to want to get rid of them. Unfortunately, these 5 people were not weak. The 5 of them had a set of joint attacks. They were also extremely cunning. Their whereabouts were erratic. As a result, they had been free and unfettered in the Hebei cultivation world for many years. Legend has it that these 5 people even had the lives of 3 late-stage core forging cultivators in their hands. Among them, the 5 of them were the most proud of secretly killing a late-stage core forging cultivator of the spirit martial sect. This provoked the spirit martial sect to issue a bounty for the lives of these 5 people. However, for several years, these 5 people were still at large. However, they had restrained themselves a lot. The Hebei cultivation world had rarely heard of these 5 people. Originally, some people thought that these 5 people had already hidden outside of the Hebei cultivation world. They didn't expect that these 5 people would appear here. Furthermore, they appeared in front of everyone in such a way. The streets were bustling with cultivators. There were hundreds of them, if not thousands. There was no lack of hidden dragons and crouching tigers among them. To be able to avoid these cultivators and quietly kill these 5 people, this kind of method was not something that the onlookers could hope to achieve. Could it be the young man in green behind the 2 girls? When some of the more knowledgeable people saw the bodies of these 5 people, they guessed that after their divine will was forcefully destroyed, they lost control of the inner yuan in their bodies and died from squeezing out of the core space. And to be able to destroy the divine will of 5 mid-stage core forging cultivators in one go, what kind of cultivation level was this person at? The Dharma stage? It seemed that even a normal Dharma stage cultivator could not achieve such an effect. Some of the scouts from the major forces looked at the back of the figure in green in the distance, their eyes faintly revealing a hint of awe. To have the strength of the Dharma stage at such a young age, what kind of giant was behind him? What kind of identity did the 2 little girls have to be able to have Dharma stage cultivators as bodyguards? Lu Ping's divine will swept behind him and swept past his surroundings. He found that the divine will that was spying on him and Lu Qiner had suddenly disappeared. Lu Ping's face revealed a trace of a smile. At this time, he heard someone behind him shout, "That's not right, who took the 5 tigers of Xingshan's storage artifacts? Hurry up and hand them over." The 5 tigers of Xingshan usually do business without any capital. They must have accumulated a lot of good things in their hands. Which damned person took it away without saying a word? It was on me just now. How do you know it was still on you just now? Nonsense, I have been watching for a long time. Stop talking nonsense. Since the people who killed them don't want them, first cut off the heads of these 5 people and go to the spirit martial sect to collect the reward. This head is mine. Get lost. On the other side of the street, Lu Ping took 5 storage artifacts from the mouth of Debeo, who had just drilled out of the ground. After opening it, he casually looked at it and threw 4 of them to Debeo. The remaining ones seemed to be used by the leader of the 5 tigers of Xingshan. Lu Ping rummaged through it for a while and then took out a map. On it was a map of the lush jade swamp, but it was clearly not complete. However, Lu Ping did not plan to enter the lush jade swamp with the cultivators of the other sections. Since that was the case, with this incomplete map in hand, it could save Lu Ping a lot of energy. It seemed that after the 5 tigers of Xingshan killed the cultivators of the spirit martial sect, they hid in the lush jade swamp and even built a secret cave in the swamp. It was because of this secret cave that the 5 of them escaped the massacre after Mara entered the lush jade swamp. The reason why the 5 tigers of Xingshan took the risk to enter the lush jade swamp again was for the secret cave that the 5 of them had opened in the swamp. Looking at the mark on the map that marked the secret cave of the 5 people, Lu Ping thought to himself, no matter what, I have a place to stay. At this moment, Lu Ping frowned and looked in the direction of Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua. At this moment, the 2 of them were standing in front of a stall and seemed to be arguing with the cultivator who set up the stall. Lu Ping walked forward and did not wait for him to ask the 2 of them what happened. When he saw the person who set up the stall, Lu Ping's expression inevitably became serious. When the person who set up the stall saw Lu Ping, his eyes couldn't help but narrow. Then, as if nothing had happened, he continued to bargain with Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua. This person's aura is so strange. The person who set up the stall was an unkempt man. This cultivator had obviously concealed his aura, making it impossible to see how strong he was. However, the moment Lu Ping saw this cultivator, he sharply caught a trace of his aura. Uncle, although your mystical item is not bad, the item that Sister Qin used to exchange for it is also extraordinary. You should know that Sister Qin took out an elixir for a half-step Dharma adept. Uncle, you are a late core forging adept, right? Perhaps this elixir can heal your injuries. When the surrounding cultivators heard that this young girl was holding a half-step transcendence stage pill in her hand, they all sucked in a breath of cold air. The cultivator who set up the stall was an unkempt man with a sallow face. It was obvious that he had suffered a serious internal injury. There were a few items on display in the stall. Although there weren't many items, from Lu Ping's point of view, these items were quite valuable. This unkempt man was using these items on the ground to exchange for a few pills that could heal the injuries of late core forging cultivators. Among the items was a 1-foot-tall glass bottle filled with a brown liquid. This was the treasure that Lu Qiner had her eyes on previously. She had intended to exchange a bottle of healing pills that Lu Ping had refined for a half-step transcendence stage pill. Unexpectedly, this man suddenly changed his mind. Naturally, Lu Qiner was unwilling, so they argued. When Lu Ping looked at the brown liquid in the glass bottle, his eyes narrowed. It was a mystical item like that's green jade glass liquid. Qiner could only tell that it was a water-based mystical item, but she didn't know that it was as rare as the 10,000 poison liquid. Like the growing soil, it was a high-grade mystical item. Using a bottle of a half-step transcendence stage pill to exchange for it was indeed a little low. Chapter 726. Lu Ping had already condensed 7 layers of Vigor Qi. Aside from the myriad poison liquid, which was a high-grade Vigor Qi, the other 6 heaven and earth oddities were all in the mid to low-grade range. The green jade glass liquid was a high-grade heaven and earth oddity similar to the myriad poison liquid. It was extremely rare in the cultivation world, and cultivators who could use it were few and far between. The sloppy man wasn't afraid that someone would see through his disguise when he took out the cyan jade glazed liquid. However, Most cultivators who could see through the cyan jade glazed liquid were knowledgeable cultivators with profound cultivation. Only these cultivators would have the item that the sloppy man needed. However, he didn't expect that the cyan jade glazed liquid would be seen through by a core forging cultivator. Looking at the spirit pill in Lu Qiner's hand, the sloppy man's heart was filled with joy. He didn't expect that although this little girl's cultivation was low, she would have such a high-grade spirit pill. Although it wasn't enough to completely heal his injuries, it would still be of great benefit. The situation was urgent and this spirit pill was urgently needed. Even if it couldn't compare to the green jade glass liquid, he couldn't care less. However, just as the sloppy man was about to agree, his eyes suddenly narrowed. A cold light flashed and he stared at Lu Qiner's hand that was holding the spirit pill. At this moment, the sloppy man suddenly felt an incomparably tyrannical aura flash past him. He was startled, and when he turned to look, he happened to see Lu Ping casually glancing at him. Although the sloppy man was puzzled, he became even more vigilant. At this moment, Lu Taohua, who was next to Lu Qiner, saw that the sloppy man's face was previously filled with eagerness, but in the blink of an eye, he became silent. She thought that he was trying to raise the price. Naturally, she was unwilling and opened her mouth to speak. When the sloppy man turned to look at Lu Taohua, he saw that she was pointing at the green jade glass liquid and was saying something. He subconsciously looked at Lu Taohua's outstretched hand and his pupils shrank again. "Two young ladies, if you are interested in the spirit liquid in this bottle, it is not impossible to exchange it." The sloppy man pondered for a moment and seemed to have made up his mind. He smiled at Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua. At this time, Lu Ping had already recognized the green jade glass liquid. However, he did not think that Lu Qiner would recognize such an extremely rare heaven and earth wonder. Lu Ping looked at Debao, who was at his feet. It was very likely that Debao had discovered the uniqueness of the spirit liquid in the bottle, but he did not know what kind of spirit liquid it was. After Lu Qiner found out about it, she naturally wanted to exchange it. She did not even hesitate to take out the life-saving spirit pill that Lu Ping had given her. After Lu Ping's qi of vigor had been refined to the 7th layer, he had not been able to find a suitable spirit liquid. Therefore, he had not made any progress for many years. Lu Qiner was naturally aware of this. She had taken out the best spirit pill she had on hand in order to exchange for the spirit liquid and give it to Lu Ping to refine his qi of vigor. Lu Ping could not help but smile. This little girl had actually learned to care about others. However, the green jade glass liquid was extremely precious. Although the spirit pill that Lu Qiner had taken out was also extraordinary, it could not be compared to this high-grade heaven and earth wonder. When Lu Qiner heard the sloppy man in front of her, she actually calmed down and said in a deep voice, "What do you want in exchange?" The sloppy man looked at Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua's wrists again with a playful smile on his face. Then his eyes inadvertently flashed with a green light and he said, "I see that the jade bracelets on your wrists are quite good. If you two are willing to part with them, you can take this bottle of spirit liquid." When Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua heard that the person in front of them wanted the bracelets on their wrists, their expressions suddenly changed. The two shook their wrists at the same time and used their sleeves to conceal the bracelets on their wrists. As a result, it had the effect of revealing the truth. When the surrounding cultivators saw the two of them acting like this, they were even more certain that the bracelets of the two were most likely extraordinary treasures. One after another, they spread their spiritual sense over, intending to see what was going on. Although Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua were also core forging cultivators, when faced with the probing of so many cultivators with powerful divine senses, they were unable to resist for a while. The bracelets on their wrists were quickly discovered by the divine senses of others. "What is this thing? Why haven't I seen it before? It doesn't look like a magic treasure. There aren't any true essence fluctuations coming from it. There aren't even any spiritual qi fluctuations. Why would this sloppy man want something like this? It can't be that this man saw these two beautiful young ladies and had some thoughts about them, right?" Lu Qiner could still be considered calm. She fiercely glared at the sloppy man and grabbed Lu Taohua, who was at a loss. She said, "We're not buying it. Little sister, let's go." The sloppy man saw that Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua were about to turn around and did not stop them. Instead, he looked behind them with a serious expression. When Lu Ping saw the green light in the sloppy man's eyes, he knew that he was in trouble. When he squeezed through the crowd and arrived in front of the two, the divine senses of the surrounding cultivators had already broken through their respective divine senses. Fortunately, the people around them did not know what Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua were wearing on their wrists. Lu Ping looked coldly at the sloppy man in front of him. Then, a cold aura suddenly exploded from his body. A strong divine sense swept out and drove away all the divine senses in the surroundings. Many cultivators let out muffled groans and their faces turned pale. However, they looked at Lu Ping with fear in their eyes. They did not dare to criticize Lu Ping's actions. Lu Ping looked at the sloppy man in front of him and said, "Although the injury of the blood vessels only affects part of the blood vessels, if it is not healed in a short period of time, in the future, one's cultivation will slowly decline and it will no longer be possible to advance to the Dharma phase." When the sloppy man heard Lu Ping's words, his body trembled. He looked up and said, "Your Excellency is an alchemy master?" The surrounding cultivators were originally awed by Lu Ping's power. Although they did not dare to say anything about his domineering divine senses, they were very dissatisfied in their hearts. However, when they heard the sloppy man in front of them said that this person was actually an alchemy master, the noisy scene suddenly quieted down. The sloppy man's previous laziness suddenly disappeared a lot. He pondered for a moment and said, "These two little girls have a good relationship with Your Excellency, right? I was rash before. I wonder if Your Excellency has a way to heal my injuries. If Your Excellency can heal them, why not give this bottle of spiritual water to Your Excellency?" Lu Ping glanced at the two little girls beside him, then looked at the sloppy man with a smile but didn't say anything. The sloppy man suddenly came to a realization and a strong fluctuation of spiritual qi erupted from his body. Many of the surrounding cultivators turned pale with fright and quickly moved out of the way. They saw him form a few hand seals and a soundproof restriction immediately surrounded him and Lu Ping's group of three. Lu Ping was slightly surprised when the sloppy man's aura erupted. However, he soon discovered that the person's true essence circulation was obscure. Although it could erupt for a short period of time, it could not be sustained for a long period of time. It was obvious that the damage to his bloodline was more serious than he had imagined. The smile on Lu Ping's face became even wider. The sloppy cultivator looked at the smile on Lu Ping's face and his expression became somewhat silent. After laying down the soundproof restriction, he looked at Lu Ping and said, "The demon transformation bracelet?" Lu Ping's expression became even more certain and he also said, "The spirit beast sect." The sloppy cultivator didn't see the change in Lu Ping's expression as he expected. Instead, Lu Ping had guessed his origins. The sloppy cultivator was stunned for a moment before bursting into hearty laughter and said, "So you really do have a relationship with my spirit beast sect? I wonder where Your Excellency obtained the demon transformation bracelet from? It is rarely seen in my sect." A faint smile appeared on Lu Ping's face and he said, "If Your Excellency's relationship is only with these two demon transformation bracelets, isn't it a bit far-fetched?" The sloppy cultivator didn't mind and turned to look at Lu Ping, who was glaring at him from Lu Qiner's side and said, "The Luan clan. Could it be that Your Excellency is from overseas?" Without waiting for Lu Ping to answer, he looked at Lu Taohua on the other side and said, "This young lady is very strange. I am unable to see through her origins. However, since she is wearing the demon transformation bracelet on her wrist, I assume she is not from the human clan." When Lu Qiner heard that the sloppy cultivator had guessed that Lu Ping came from overseas through her, her heart thumped. However, Lu Ping pointed at Debao on the ground and said with a smile, "I also have a spiritual pet. I wonder if Your Excellency will think that I am from the Middle Earth after seeing it? I have long heard that the Spirit Beast sect has a secret technique that specializes in seeing through one's origins called the Green Jade Spirit Eyes. Seeing it today, it is indeed worthy of its reputation. However, with Your Excellency's current state, how long can you maintain this technique for?" The two of them revealed each other's identity in a few words. Lu Ping was calm and unruffled, while the sloppy cultivator was at a disadvantage because of his hidden injuries. Now that he had a request for Lu Ping's help, he couldn't help but be at a disadvantage. The cultivator cupped his hands towards Lu Ping and said, "I have experienced Your Excellency's methods. May I ask if Your Excellency is confident in treating my injuries?" Without waiting for Lu Ping to speak, the sloppy cultivator continued, "I have also consulted several alchemists. There is no lack of them like Your Excellency, but they all said that my injuries can be alleviated and controlled, but it is extremely difficult to treat. If Your Excellency is confident in treating my injuries, please feel free to take this green jade glass liquid." Lu Ping pondered for a moment. He really coveted the bottle of green jade glass liquid, but he still cautiously asked, "The Spirit Beast sect has a long heritage. It is said that their heritage is not inferior to the 5 sacred lands. Could it be that your sect does not have a sacred alchemist who can treat my injuries?" The sloppy cultivator helplessly said, "My Spirit Beast sect cultivators travel the world. Although we have fellow sect members, time cannot be delayed. To be honest, Your Excellency, my injuries are much more serious than they were 2 days ago. Right now, I am only holding on to a sliver of luck in this small town." Lu Ping looked at the green jade glass liquid on the ground and nodded, saying, "I am confident in treating your injuries. However, in addition to Your Excellency's green jade glass liquid, I will need something else." Chapter 727. When the slovenly cultivator heard that Lu Ping had other requests, his expression immediately changed. "Don't you think you're pushing your luck? Since you recognize the green jade glass liquid, you should know how precious it is. Is it not worth exchanging it for a spirit pill?" Lu Ping laughed involuntarily and said, "You must be joking. Right now, you're facing a situation where your cultivation base is about to be destroyed. Are you really going to give up your cultivation base for a bottle of spirit liquid? Besides, after you were injured, you didn't go to any of the large sects to ask for help. Instead, you hid in a remote place like this. There must be a reason, right? Otherwise, with your identity as a cultivator from the spirit-taming sect, those sects would have to give you some face. Why would you come to this small town?" The slovenly cultivator's face turned red with anger, but he couldn't say anything. He had come to the Abundance Jade Swamp with a purpose, but he didn't expect to suffer such a great loss as soon as he entered the swamp. He had almost been crippled by a sinister technique. The cultivation world of Hebei has sent a large force to hunt down Mara in the Abundance Jade Swamp. This small town is the key to entering and exiting the Abundance Jade Swamp, so it will definitely become a gathering place for cultivators. I stopped here to find someone who can treat my injuries. In fact, didn't I wait until you found me?" Lu Ping calmly replied, "That's a reasonable reason, but your injuries are not ordinary. Although the spirit pellet you need isn't a high-grade one, the method to concoct such a spirit pellet is extremely rare. I'm sure the alchemist you met before must have explained to you how troublesome your injuries are." The slovenly cultivator coldly snorted, but there was a look of helplessness on his face. Lu Ping's guess was not wrong. He had come to the Abundance Jade Swamp for an extremely important matter that could not be delayed. However, he didn't expect to suffer such a strange injury from the very beginning. Now, he had no choice but to compromise with Lu Ping. As such, he asked, "What do you want?" "Spirit-connecting pills. 10 spirit-clearing pills." Lu Ping had a deep impression of the clear spirit pill that Tian Shui Laozu had given to the amethyst wasp King Zilon to consume in the past. This kind of unique medicinal pill of the Imperial Beast sect could be said to be famous in the cultivation world. For any spiritual pet, the clear spirit pill's effect was not inferior to the spiritual forging pill. Spirit clearing pill? Don't even think about it. The sloppy cultivator's face flushed red. This kind of pill is rare even in our sect. Which of the materials needed to refine this kind of pill aren't heavenly materials and earthly treasures of the cultivation world? Not to mention 10 spirit-clearing pills, I don't even have one. Lu Ping did not expect the other party to have such a huge reaction after hearing that he wanted spirit-clearing pills. Thinking back to the time when Tian Shui Laozu had obtained 3 spirit-clearing pills, she had kept them for hundreds of years without using a single one. Even when Tian Lu Laozu had begged repeatedly, it was useless. It was only until Lu Ping's Amethyst Wasp King advanced to the core forging realm and brewed a higher-grade royal jelly did Tian Shui Laozu give one to Lu Ping. From the looks of it, this spirit-clearing pill was no small matter in the Imperial Beast sect. As Lu Ping pondered, he said, "A straightforward person does not beat around the bush. With your strength, I believe that you must have some spirit-clearing pills on you. I will not ask for it for free. I will use something to exchange for it. How about one?" The reason why Lu Ping was so sure that this person in front of him had some spirit-clearing pills was because when Tian Shui Laozu was roaming the Central Plains, she had met a core forging realm cultivator from the Imperial Beast sect. Furthermore, when Lu Ping saw the person in front of him, he discovered that although this person's cultivation was only at the 8th layer of the core forging realm, his strength was much stronger than the likes of enlightened Jian Ming and enlightened Fei Hong. Even enlightened Gu Han, who had quite a high position in the Gu clan, could not be compared to this person. With such strength, this person would definitely be one of the future Transcendence realm cultivators in the Imperial Beast sect. With the sect's care, how could he not have some good items on him? As expected, after thinking for a while, the other party's face turned green and red before he said, "I do have a few spirit-clearing pills on me. However, if you want 10 of them, this deal will not go through. At most, I will give you 3. Furthermore, I need the demon transformation bracelets from these 2 young ladies." Lu Ping was puzzled. Why do you need the demon transformation bracelet? Isn't this item unique to the Imperial Beast sect? The other party glanced at Lu Ping but did not speak. Seeing that the other party was not willing to speak, Lu Ping said awkwardly, "This demon transformation bracelet is of great use to me, but I cannot give it to you. I wonder if there is anything else that you need? I only need 7 spirit-clearing pills." The sloppy cultivator looked at Lu Ping and said, "Do you really have a spirit pill that can quickly heal my injuries?" Lu Ping smiled faintly and said, "The strange thing about your injury is that your broken meridians seem to be mending but not mending. If you use an ordinary medicinal pellet, once the medicinal energy surges through your meridians, the meridians that seem to have a sliver of hope of recovery will rupture and your cultivation base will be destroyed. Although your injury isn't fatal, if it is delayed, even if you don't lose your cultivation base, you will still be paralyzed and your cultivation base will be greatly reduced." The sloppy cultivator's face darkened. "Since I cannot withstand the medicinal effect, how can I treat it?" Lu Ping said unhurriedly, "You mentioned earlier that you have consulted a few alchemy grandmasters. I wonder if they have mentioned to you that there is a spirit water alchemy technique in the cultivation world?" The sloppy cultivator's expression suddenly became excited. "You know this technique? Do you know what kind of pill can be refined using this technique to heal my injuries?" Sure enough, the sloppy cultivator had heard of this alchemy technique. However, although the alchemist who told him about this technique knew of its existence, he only guessed that it could be used to cure this kind of injury. As for what kind of spirit pill would be refined with this technique, even the alchemist didn't know. Lu Ping sighed inwardly. The cultivation world of the Central Plains was not like the overseas world. Many alchemy masters in the overseas world had never even heard of the spirit water alchemy technique, let alone believed in it. Only a few knowledgeable alchemy grandmasters had heard of it, but that was all they had heard of. Lu Ping flipped his wrist and a jade bottle appeared in his hand. He took out a grape-sized pill and said, "This pill is called the Spirit Water Meridian Nourishing Pill. It is the most effective for your injuries." With that said, Lu Ping infused his true essence into the spirit core and a water elemental aura emerged from the spirit core's surface. The sloppy cultivator immediately sensed the unique spirituality of the spirit core. Lu Ping saw that the sloppy cultivator's expression relaxed. It was obvious that he knew how to differentiate the pill refined using the spirit water alchemy technique. However, he waited until now to say it. He was clearly a cautious person. The sloppy cultivator cupped his hands at Lu Ping and asked in a serious tone, "I am Sang Yu. How should I address you?" Lu Ping returned the greeting and said, "I am Lu Ping." "Greetings, Brother Sang." The sloppy cultivator, Sang Yu, exchanged the green jade glaze liquid in his hand with Lu Ping's spirit water meridian nourishing pill. Then he said, "Brother Lu, the spirit clearing pill is indeed very important to our sect. I can only take out 3 pills. This is also the sect's rule. After all, this pill is not easy to refine. However, if Brother Lu wants these pills, you must help me with something. I know that Brother Lu is very strong. Although you are only at the 8th layer of core forging, I fear that even a 9th layer core forging cultivator is no match for you. If Brother Lu is willing to help me with this matter, I will definitely give you 3 spirit clearing pills." Naturally, Lu Ping wouldn't blindly agree just for 3 spirit clearing pills. Instead, he asked in a serious tone, "What do you need me to do?" "I will be entering the lush jade swamp with the sect's elders in the next few days to participate in the encirclement of Mara. I'm afraid I won't be able to make it in time." Sang Yu sensed the spirit water meridian nourishing pill's aura and knew that it was indeed effective. His previously gloomy expression had long since disappeared. Hearing Lu Ping's words, he laughed and said, "Brother Lu, rest assured. What I want to do will also happen in the lush jade swamp. Brother Lu only needs to find an excuse to move alone in the Central Plains for a period of time. Last time, I was harmed by a vile person and gave up halfway. I even suffered a strange injury. This time, with Brother Lu's help, my chances of success will greatly increase. Of course, regardless of whether I succeed or not, I will definitely give you 3 spirit-clearing pills." Lu Ping pondered for a moment before nodding and saying, "All right, I agree to this. However, where will I meet up with Brother Sang after entering the lush jade swamp?" Sang Yu handed a jade slip to Lu Ping and said, "This is a map of the lush jade swamp. The place where we will meet up is marked on the map. The cultivators of the various sects in Hebei will most likely enter the lush jade swamp tomorrow. It's hard to say whether they will succeed or not, but the lush jade swamp is vast and boundless. Without several months, it will be impossible to complete this operation. It just so happens that I will need a month to recover from my injuries. In that case, let's meet up at the appointed place in a month." Lu Ping nodded and was about to lead Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua away when he heard Sang Yu say, "Brother Lu, don't blame me for not warning you. This operation to encircle Mara in Hebei will most likely be far more complicated than you can imagine. As a cultivator of the spirit-taming sect, we have heard quite a few things. Not only will the various sects in Hebei have their own plans for this operation, but the cultivators of the south bank of the Yulon River, the cultivators of the plains downstream of the Yulon River, as well as the cultivators of the highlands upstream have all heard of the news. In addition, the monsters of the Yulon River have also appeared in the swamp. The waters here are very deep." Lu Ping thanked Sang Yu and turned to leave. Sang Yu stared at Lu Ping's back and muttered to herself, "Strange. What exactly is the background of that little girl? How is it that even my Jasper Spirit Eyes, which has condensed a 7th-level spiritual object, couldn't see through her? On the other hand, that Luan and that spirit-seeking mouse on the ground are quite interesting. The Luan clearly has the attributes of both wind and fire. How could the Fire Luan race, which has always prided themselves on their pure bloodline, tolerate such an unusual existence? That spirit-seeking mouse is even more strange. Although it has displayed a mid-stage blood condensation cultivation, which is already very commendable for a low-level spirit-seeking mouse, it seems that this mouse has been sealed by some special method. I still can't see through it. This person's methods are really hard to fathom. Could it be that the spirit-seeking mouse's cultivation is even higher?" Sang Yu pondered for a moment, but still couldn't come up with an answer. She continued to murmur to herself, "It seems that after this mission is completed, I might as well make friends with this person. It's fine if it's just a few strange spiritual pets, but the most commendable thing is that none of his spiritual pets have been sealed off. They are still free. This will be able to win the goodwill of the spirit-taming sect." Chapter 728. After the incident with Sang Yu, Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua were no longer in the mood to continue shopping. They followed Lu Ping to find a clean inn to stay in. However, there were no spirit veins in this small town, and the spirit qi in the air was thin. Moreover, there were thousands of practitioners of different levels in the town, so there was no room for people to train. Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua informed Lu Ping of their plans and returned to the House of Gold. The fact that the practitioners of the spirit beast taming sect could see through Lu Qiner's real body with the demon transformation bracelet reminded Lu Ping that the demon transformation bracelet belonged to the spirit beast taming sect, and Sang Yu had only noticed the shrunken demon transformation bracelet on Lu Qiner and Lu Taohua before noticing that they were demons. However, since Sang Yu could see through Lu Qiner's identity, it was hard to say that other practitioners did not have secret techniques like the spirit beast taming sect's Jasper's spiritual pupils. In fact, Lu Ping's owned 3 pure eyes was not inferior to the Jasper's spiritual pupils, but both were focused on different things. Fortunately, Ancestor Long Huai had placed a seal on Lu Taohua all those years ago, and it was able to conceal her identity. Unless she encountered a cultivator that was even more formidable than Ancestor Long Huai. Otherwise, even the spirit beast sect's jadeite spirit eyes would be useless against her. However, Lu Ping's request for Lu Taohua to wear the demon transformation bracelet was not completely useless. Although the Longhuai ancestor had hidden her identity, it could not change the fact that she was a demon. Without the demon transformation bracelet, the secret that Lu Taohua was not a human practitioner would be exposed. At least if she was seen as a demon, she would be protected by Lu Ping's status as a spiritual pet. If her identity as a demon was exposed, even a Dharma adept would not be able to protect her. Early the next morning, the entire little town was in an uproar. Today, the 18 minor forces of Hebei's cultivation world would enter Rich Jade Swamp to encircle and annihilate Mara. Cultivators from all over gathered in the little town, ready to follow behind the 25 forces. As soon as Lu Ping walked out of the inn, the void in front of him trembled. Under the horrified gazes of the surrounding cultivators, the void rippled like water, and from the rippling void, a sound-transmitting sword suddenly stretched out. Teleportation was a technique used by Dharma adepts. Because of yesterday's events, there were many people in the town who had been waiting for Lu Ping. Seeing Lu Ping nonchalantly accept the sound transmission sword, Lu Ping said something to the sound transmission sword. Then, he pushed the sound transmission sword into the spatial ripples and disappeared. Immediately after, the turbulent spatial ripples calmed down. Luckily, Zhou Donghuang had not been blinded by greed yesterday and had not tried to snatch the treasures from him and the 2 girls. This person indeed had a Dharma adept backing him up. However, where had the girls who had been following him gone? After Lu Ping recovered the sound transmission sword that Guotianshan and Lao Zu had sent, his face was filled with worry. From the information that Guotianshan and Lao Zu had sent, it seemed that what Sang Yu had said yesterday was true. Furthermore, the situation was more complicated than Lu Ping had imagined. There was no lack of Dharma adepts among the cultivators who had heard the news. Under such circumstances, just Guotianshan, Liang Tianfeng, and Chu Tiancheng, the 3 early Dharma adepts, would Lao Zu be able to cause much trouble? If these 3 Lao Zu were to be exposed, there was a possibility that they would die. Have you heard? This time, under the spiritual martial sect's initiative, 18 small and medium-sized sects in Hebei have come to encircle and annihilate Mo Luo. There are 25 Dharma adepts, led by a late Dharma adept of the spiritual martial sect, into the Yingyu swamp. That's not all. This time, besides the 25 Lao Zu, each sect has also sent a total of 81 late core forging adepts. It is said that these adepts are all at least at the 8th level of the core forging stage and have the potential to become Dharma adepts in their respective sections. This time, the sects in Hebei have put in a lot of effort to surround and kill Mara. Humph! There are various cultivators hiding within this little town. It is not just the loose cultivators from the Hebei region. There is also a considerable number of cultivators from the Hunan region, the flatlands downstream, and the upper reaches of the Hunan region. Who knows how many more of them are hiding around this little town? This siege on Imo Luo will surely be a bloodbath. I wonder how many people will survive? Listening to the discussions of the surrounding cultivators, Lu Ping extended his divine will outwards. Indeed, he found that there were far more cultivators in this small town than he had imagined. Lu Ping raised his eyebrows and looked up towards the northern sky. Immediately, he heard a loud shout from a cultivator in the distance. "They're here. The cultivators of the 18 sects are here." The cultivators in the small town looked into the distance and saw 25 streaks of rainbow light streak across the sky, leaving long shadows in the sky. In an instant, they flew over the small town and flew towards the Yingyu swamp. Indeed, there were 25 Dharma adepts. An overwhelming pressure swept over from afar, and the cultivators who had gathered in the small town let out a roar like a tsunami. Without waiting for these cultivators to react, the streaks of light had already flown over the small town, flying in the direction of the Yingyu swamp. For most cultivators, this was the only time in their lives that they would experience such a grand scene. Seeing the 25 streaks of Dharma adepts disappear into the horizon, many streaks of light shot up from the small town and the vast plains around it, chasing after the 25 Laozu at high speed. However, just as these streaks of light disappeared, the cultivators in the small town suddenly exclaimed, "Someone else is coming." I'm afraid they are the 81 late core forging stage cultivators from the 18 sects. When the crowd looked up, they saw more than 10 streaks of 5-colored streaks of light whistling through the sky. Although these streaks of light were not as vast as the previous streaks of 7-colored streaks of light, there were more of them. Together, they looked like countless meteors streaking across the sky. When the streaks of light flew over the small town and headed towards the Yingyu swamp, the cultivators in the small town and the surrounding area were completely stirred. Hundreds of streaks of light shot up into the sky in an instant, following the streaks of light from before as they flew towards the Yingyu swamp. Then, an endless stream of streaks of light rose up from the surroundings, forming a colorful curtain of light that stretched all the way to the horizon. Even though Lu Ping was considered to be experienced and knowledgeable among cultivators of the same level, when he saw the huge scene of cultivators flying up one after another, he felt his scalp go numb. The cultivators who entered the Yingyu swamp first might face greater danger, but there was no doubt that they would have more opportunities and gains. Those who dared to follow the cultivators from the various sects in Hebei into the Yingyu swamp were naturally cultivators who had some confidence in their own strength. Among the thousands of cultivators, not a single one was below the core forging stage. In fact, there were very few early core forging stage cultivators. Lu Ping was not in a hurry to enter the swamp. As he turned to leave, he heard a cultivator next to him whispering, "Strange. Didn't they say that there were 81 late core forging stage cultivators from the 18 sects? Why were there only 80 streaks of light just now?" Lu Ping smiled and a streak of light shot up into the sky, disappearing into the horizon in the blink of an eye. However, there were still streaks of light rising up from the small town as they headed towards the Yingyu swamp. The Yingyu swamp was a place where the Yulon River and the Abundant River released their floodwaters during the flood season. As a result, not only was the swamp vast, but it was also covered in mud all year round. During the rainy season, the swamp would become a swamp. Many of the sundries from the two rivers accumulated there, causing the plants growing in the swamp to wither and rot every year before being soaked in the muddy water. Over time, a faint layer of poisonous miasma rose up above the Yingyu swamp. Although the toxicity of the miasma was weak and even ordinary cultivators could resist it, the miasma was highly permeable and well hidden. Ordinary cultivators would usually ignore it after noticing it. However, after staying in the swamp for a long time, the toxicity would eventually seep into the cultivator's flesh and bones and lay dormant, causing harm to the cultivator. The Yingyu swamp was vast and dangerous. If Mara were to hide in it, it would be difficult for the cultivators to encircle him in a short period of time. However, the sects in Hebei still discussed the encirclement deadline of 3 months. They were considering the miasma that permeated the swamp. 3 months was the time limit for the miasma to seep into a cultivator's blood. Naturally, the miasma didn't have any effect on Lu Ping. On the contrary, Lu Ping's interest was piqued when he noticed the miasma. The poisonous miasma wasn't too strong, but it was tenacious. Not only that, the poison was extremely stealthy and permeable. If it weren't for Lu Ping's thousand poison serpent, which was also known as the mother of all poisons, he wouldn't have been bothered by the poisonous miasma. Lu Ping's protective energy barrier, the myriad poison meteorite star, could absorb all kinds of toxins to strengthen himself. The myriad poison potion in the Golden House was the same. More importantly, once the toxins in the myriad poison potion were strong enough, it would automatically condense into a mid-grade heaven-rank spirit treasure, the myriad wonder dew. This was what Lu Ping valued the most. After he grasped the refining method of the spirit forging pill, the biggest problem he faced was the lack of a heaven-rank saint-rank spirit treasure like the myriad wonder jade nectar. Previously he had 3/4 of the myriad wonder jade nectar on him, totaling 27 drops. But after refining several furnaces of spirit forging pills, apart from the 3 drops of myriad wonder jade nectar that Zhenling had accumulated for thousands of years, the remaining 3 furnaces of myriad wonder jade nectar were his own. This was also the reason why he wasn't willing to hand over more spirit forging pills to the sect. With so many myriad wonder jade nectar appearing, Lu Ping still couldn't grasp the consequences of this impact. After a short while, Lu Ping's flight light entered the brimming jade swamp. He propped up the myriad poison meteorite chi and naturally ignored the imperceptible miasma around him. His flight light didn't slow down in the slightest as he flew straight into the depths of the swamp. At this time, after the invasion of a large number of cultivators, the swamp was no longer as desolate and lonely as it was before. The swamp seemed to have suddenly become lively. The dull roars of spells, the crazy roars of beasts, all kinds of mournful screams, and the roars of cultivators resounded from all over the swamp and reverberated in all directions. Lu Ping swept out with his divine sense and went straight to a muddy pond 10 kilometers to the left. Chapter 729. Strictly speaking, the lush jade swamp was a place of exile for the monsters of the Yulon River. Aside from the top-tier monsters with inherited bloodlines, most monsters would only gain sentience after reaching the blood condensation stage. Before that, most of them could only rely on their instincts to train. However, not all demonic beasts would gain sentience during the process of advancing to the blood condensation realm. This included some top-tier demonic beasts that had already gained sentience before advancing to the blood condensation realm. During the process of advancing to the blood condensation realm, these demonic beasts might lose their sentience due to the mutation in their bloodline. They would become savage beasts that could only rely on their instincts to cultivate. This was why both humans and monsters viewed the blood condensation stage as the key to becoming a true cultivator. Human cultivators could only awaken their bloodlines after reaching the blood condensation stage and gain the ability to fly. Monsters, on the other hand, could only gain sentience like humans after reaching the blood condensation stage. Without sentience, they couldn't be considered as monsters, and could only be considered as feral beasts. After all, these feral beasts originated from the monster race. Although they didn't have sentience and couldn't be considered as monster cultivators, the monster race didn't just ignore them. Instead, they gathered them in a place of exile, leaving them to fend for themselves. And the lush jade swamp was one of the places where the monsters of the Yulon River had been exiled. Although the feral beasts didn't have sentience, they could still rely on their instincts to train. The only difference was that their training speed would be slower. But without the constraints of rationality, these feral beasts would be even more ferocious when facing enemies. After the lush jade swamp became a place of exile for the monsters of the Yulon River, it had actually become a natural barrier to the cultivators of the Hebei region. It was also a springboard for the Yulon River to invade the Hebei region. A place that was chosen by the demon race as a place to exile the ferocious beasts should naturally be a place that was lacking in cultivation resources. However, no one would have thought that this barren land would be home to the remnants of the demonic Luo that had wreaked havoc in the cultivation world of the Hebei province. A place that could attract the demonic Luo to gather was naturally a place that could help them recover their vitality. Since the demonic Luo could devour spirits, there must be a natural spiritual vein in the lush jade swamp. The reason why the spirit martial sect proposed to gather all the forces of the various sects to enter the jade swamp and surround Mara was not only to prevent Mara from returning to the Hubei cultivation world after recovering his strength, but also to seize the spirit veins that might exist in the jade swamp and establish his absolute position in the Hubei cultivation world. Another important purpose was to clear out the vicious beasts in the swamp and destroy the bridgehead of the Yulon River Demon clan that invaded the Hubei cultivation world. This was also the reason why the sects in Hubei agreed to this joint operation. Lu Ping walked towards the muddy pond. He did not expect that he would be able to find a hiding place for the water azura within a few dozen miles of entering the jade swamp. However, he was curious. Could it be that there was also a place where the spirit veins gathered that could attract these water azura to hide here? However, why didn't his spiritual will sense it at all? Lu Ping stopped a few dozen feet away from the muddy pond with a playful smile on his face. Then, he pointed his finger and a whirlpool appeared in the middle of the muddy pond. This whirlpool was strangely tight. The surrounding water gathered towards the whirlpool, and then the water was thrown far away from the muddy pond, leaving only a pile of mud in the pond. Lu Ping looked at the muddy pond and couldn't help but laugh. You can even endure this. Everyone says that the azura and the demonic cultivators are like locusts in the cultivation world. Don't you want to know how to endure? Lu Ping stretched out his hands and clenched them tightly. The muddy pond quickly dried up. As Lu Ping's cultivation increased, the Sea of Mulberry Fields technique, which was one of the best spells in Lu Ping's North Sea 12 techniques, showed its power more and more, and Lu Ping was able to use it more and more smoothly. Bang! The mud exploded, and the azura hiding in it could no longer hide. Taking advantage of the flying mud, they attacked Lu Ping. There were 3 great azuras in the core forging stage. One of the weapons in the hands of the azura flashed with a blinding light. When Lu Ping saw this cold light, he did not hesitate to use the Autumn Dew Sword. The azuras were good at hiding. Lu Ping being able to discover the azuras hiding in the muddy pond was already his limit. Since they could be discovered by Lu Ping, these azuras naturally could not be Dharma azuras. Thus, Lu Ping was very confident in killing these 3 azuras. However, Lu Ping did not expect that there would be a great azura that was close to the Dharma stage and had a companion weapon that had reached the level of a spirit-nurturing treasure. Raging Waves technique. The twin swords, one in front and one behind, created a huge wave that pressed down on the 3 shuras, preventing them from reaching Lu Ping's range of attack. The strongest azura held a 2.5-foot short sword in its hand. With just one sword, it cut through the wave formed by Lu Ping's 2 swords and rushed toward Lu Ping. Lu Ping was not surprised. Instead, he was happy. At this time, the other 2 azuras were afraid of Lu Ping's sword wave and had already distanced themselves from this azura. Lu Ping's 2 swords suddenly circled around and immediately trapped this azura in his sword circle. Green Serpent Disturbing the Sea Sword technique. 2 green sea dragons soared into the sky from the sword wave, circling left and right, entangling the great azura in the middle. The short sword in the azura's hand turned into a green ball of light and blocked the 2 green serpents. The 2 swords clashed. The azura's spirit-nurturing treasure cut through the sword scales of the 2 green serpents, but the green serpent formed by fainting autumn's sword wrapped around them tighter. At this time, the other 2 azuras finally broke through the sword wave and came at Lu Ping because Lu Ping was using all his strength to kill one of them. A small black flag suddenly rose above Lu Ping's head. The flag fluttered, and the water that Lu Ping had thrown out from the muddy pond appeared under the feet of the 2 azuras. It turned into water ropes that wrapped around the 2 azuras' feet. But just as the 2 water ropes were about to further restrict the 2 azuras' movements, the water ropes suddenly thinned and melted into the 2 azuras' bodies. Lu Ping scolded himself for being stupid. Water azuras were gifted with all kinds of water-type spells, so they naturally had a strong resistance to water-type spells. Seeing that the 2 azuras weren't affected and were rushing towards Lu Ping, he suddenly heard the wind above him. A seal the size of a small mountain fell from the sky and smashed into the two Asuras, splashing water everywhere. At this moment, a colorful poisonous fog suddenly burst out from the muddy pond that had previously dried up. Then, a weak aura followed closely after and diluted in the surrounding air. A colorful figure flashed in the sky. Lu Ping was shocked. There was a poison Asura hidden in the muddy pond. A curtain of water hung down from the water-controlling flag, and white lotuses bloomed on the water curtain. Then, 9 lotuses broke in a row, and the water curtain caved in deeply. Then, it bounced back, and a multicolored cloud flew backward, then hovered several hundred feet away. Lu Ping used the same trick again. The water-controlling flag fluttered, and the 9 water vines rolled up and went deep into the colorful cloud floating in the air. The colorful cloud didn't flash, as if it was laughing at Lu Ping's exhaustion. It didn't see that when Lu Ping used the water-controlling technique, several golden lotuses flashed on the water curtain of the water-controlling flag, turned into a golden stream of water, and poured into the 9 water vines. Suddenly, a mournful roar came from the colorful cloud. The cloud suddenly trembled violently, and then pieces of cloud began to float in all directions like cotton floated by the wind. Lu Ping looked at the golden color coming out of the cloud in the air and said with a smirk, "Do you really think you're immune to all poisons? You even dare to absorb the myriad poison serum." Lu Ping made a sword spell in his hand, and the 2 green dragons circled more and more urgently, gradually forming a huge water scroll. The light ball formed by the short sword in the great Asura's hand kept shrinking as the water scroll continued to wear it down. Shrill hisses came from the water scroll, and the light ball began to rush left and right, as if trying to break out of the water scroll's encirclement. Lu Ping chuckled and said, "It's too late to escape now." The colorful cloud in the sky dissipated, and an Asura with strange patterns all over its body appeared in front of Lu Ping. It stumbled in the air and finally fell into the swamp. Although this poison Asura was dying from the backlash of the myriad poison serum, Lu Ping could see that the golden color of the myriad poison serum was slowly disappearing in the poison Asura's body. Obviously, the poison Asura was trying to refine the myriad poison serum that Lu Ping had injected into its body. If this poison Asura was given some time to refine the myriad poison liquid, not only would it be able to recover its strength, but its strength would also be greatly enhanced. However, Lu Ping obviously wouldn't give it a chance. Lu Ping reversed the water-controlling technique, and the myriad poison serum that had been injected into the poison Asura's body earlier rolled back, and at the same time, the poison Asura's poison essence was brought out. In the midst of poison Asura's mournful screams, its cultivation essence was sucked clean by Lu Ping, and it couldn't have been more dead. In the golden house, in the pool of myriad poison serum made of blue stone, bubbled. A drop of wonder dew gradually formed at the bottom of the pool, and finally condensed into half a drop of wonder dew. Lu Ping was overjoyed. He changed the technique in his hand, and the autumn dew sword suddenly broke away from the water, stabbing toward the ball of light that had shrunk to less than 10 feet. With a clang, the water Asura's short sword couldn't block the 2 swords in the end, and the autumn dew sword pierced through its core space. Lu Ping waved his hand, and the short sword in the water Asura's hand flew back into Lu Ping's hand. Lu Ping looked at it carefully for a moment, and then regretfully put the short sword into his storage magic tool. The reason why the Shura's accompanying magic treasures were able to display such power was mainly because they were in the Shura's own hands. Under the special circulation of true essence and innate abilities, the short sword could display power no less than that of a spirit-nourishing magic treasure. But now that the flying sword was in Lu Ping's hands, it only had the power of a spirit-nurturing magic treasure at most. However, if the short sword was given to a master refiner, it could quickly be upgraded to a spirit-nurturing magic treasure. Chapter 730. Lu Ping killed the 4 great Shuras cleanly. Although the appearance of a late core forging stage poison Shura was beyond Lu Ping's expectations, it still did not affect Lu Ping too much. Instead, it was plotted against by Lu Ping with the myriad poison paste. After that, Lu Ping absorbed all the essence of the Great Shura and condensed half a drop of Myriad Wonder Jade Dew in the Myriad Poison Paste. Lu Ping casually put away the accompanying magic treasures in the hands of the other two Great Shura that had been smashed by the landslide, and then the golden Myriad Poison Meteorite gang rose around his body again. The countless colorful poisonous clouds that were thrown by the Poison Shura gradually gathered towards the Myriad Poison Meteorite gang, and then integrated into the protective aura chi. The golden color of the aura chi all over his body became brighter and brighter. Compared to these things, Lu Ping was more concerned about the bottom of the pond, which had been drained of water by Lu Ping's water control art, and only cracked soil was left. Previously, 3 water shura and 1 poison shura had rushed out of the bottom of the pond one after another, and a huge pit had been blasted open. A faint spiritual power lingered at the bottom of the pit, and a stench was emitted from it. Lu Ping could not help but frown. This stench was formed by the debris that had accumulated in the swamp over the years, and then gradually decayed after being covered by silt. These decayed things also contained various toxins, and were the main source of the poisonous miasma floating above the swamp. Lu Ping's left hand drew a stroke, and a space portal opened. The Myriad Wonder Jade Dew in the Bluestone Pond where the Myriad Poison Paste was located seemed to have found some delicious tau. A dark red mist rose from the bottom of the quagmire and then was attracted to the space portal. It gradually gathered above the Bluestone Pond and gradually condensed into a 3-foot cloud. When the cloud had condensed to its limit, dark red raindrops fell from the cloud and merged with the Bluestone Pond. Finally, they were assimilated by the Myriad Poison liquid. The half a drop of Myriad Wonder Dew that had been condensed from the essence of a late core forging stage poison azura gradually became plump. However, this transformation process was a bit long, and it was unknown when it would become a complete drop of Myriad Wonder Dew. After the Myriad Poison liquid had absorbed all the decaying toxins at the bottom of the quagmire, the originally weak spiritual chi suddenly became thicker. Lu Ping drew a stream of water from the swamp pond next to him, then entered the quagmire and brought out a stream of muddy water. After a while, the mud at the bottom of the quagmire was cleaned up. So there was a small spirit vein hidden here, but it was covered by the previously decaying poisonous thing, causing the spiritual chi to be unable to penetrate the surface. It seems that a poison azura first discovered the poisonous thing, and then discovered the hidden spirit vein below, so it attracted 3 water azuras. This can be considered a pleasant surprise. Lu Ping took out a set of formation tools from his storage magic tool, and set up a traction magic array at the bottom of the quagmire according to the position. When he returned to Yingshan Immortal Academy, he could activate the magic array to guide the spirit vein back to Yingshan Immortal Academy. Previously, Debao found 4 small spirit gathering pearls and 6 miniature spirit gathering pearls in the Fist Valley. At that time, Sage Xian Fang and Sage Linan were also present, so on the second day, Sage Xian Kai asked for 6 miniature spirit gathering pearls from Lu Ping. Originally, Sage Xian Kai was aiming for Lu Ping's 4 small spirit gathering pearls. Yingshan Immortal Academy had already condensed nearly 2 medium-sized spirit veins. If the 4 small spirit veins nurtured by the 4 small spirit gathering pearls were added, Yingshan Immortal Academy would have 2 more medium-sized spirit veins in a year or 2. This would be a great boost to the Immortal Academy's foundation. However, Lu Ping still wanted to use these small spirit gathering pearls to strengthen Huangli Island's spirit veins, so he naturally would not agree. In the end, he could not dissuade Sage Xian Kai from coming to him every 2 to 3 days, so he could only give the 6 miniature spirit gathering pearls to Sage Xian Kai before sending her away. After the spirit vein became a medium-sized spirit vein, the increase from fusing with the miniature spirit veins was minuscule, so he gave the 6 miniature spirit gathering pearls away. However, Lu Ping also knew that Sage Xian Kai was not doing this for the 4 miniature spirit gathering pearls. The Immortal Academy was still in its initial stages, so in order to strengthen its control over the Immortal Academy's territory, they had to send disciples to certain areas to declare their ownership. At the same time, they had to develop and manage some places where spiritual energy gathered. This would definitely have a certain impact on the disciples' cultivation. Right now, If a few miniature spirit veins were produced in Immortal Academy's territory of influence, then these disciples would naturally be willing to serve them. Moreover, the appearance of spirit veins for regions with places where spiritual essence gathered was a mutually beneficial situation to begin with. As soon as Lu Ping finished setting up the traction formation, his divine sense discovered something. He frowned slightly, but Lu Ping's hands did not stop at all. A series of restrictions were cast out, and the spirit vein that was still releasing spiritual energy was immediately sealed. Then, his hands moved from the outside to the inside, and the entire pit was filled up. The water that Lu Ping had diverted flowed back into the pond, turning it into a muddy pond. After finishing his work, Lu Ping dusted his hands, as if the work had made his hands dirty. Hee, your esteemed self is quite lucky. You actually found a miniature spirit vein just a few dozen kilometers into the abundant jade swamp. Are you in such a hurry to hide it because you are afraid of others finding it? But this is also good. It saves me the trouble of hiding this spirit vein again. Lu Ping turned around unhurriedly, only to see a few rays of light descending a few dozen meters in front of Lu Ping. The leader was a masked woman wearing a green robe. Her body was shrouded in a faint layer of mist, as if to prevent others from prying. However, Lu Ping's divine sense was tyrannical. His eyes had just condensed the sixth wondrous object, the three pure true eyes was like a pair of sharp swords. No matter what methods the woman in green robe used, he was still able to see through her cultivation. A ninth-layer core forging expert. Lu Ping looked at the green-robed woman with surprise. Of the 8 cultivators following behind her, 5 had reached the 7th or 8th layer of the late core forging stage. The remaining 3 cultivators were at the 6th layer, and 2 of them were women. The green-robed woman felt some fear from Lu Ping's gaze. She walked on the edge of danger all year round, so she had a natural premonition of danger. She could feel that the cultivator in front of her was definitely not as simple as an 8th-layer core forging cultivator on the surface. Not to mention that he was aware of their situation, but he still went about his own business without the slightest bit of worry. As if dissatisfied with Lu Ping's calm demeanor, and dissatisfied with Lu Ping's unscrupulous treatment of their elder sister, the 2 late core forging cultivators fiercely said, "Elder sister, why are you wasting time with this guy? Just tell him to hand over the guiding formation plate and get lost. If he doesn't agree, then he can stay here today. There are many wandering ghosts in this Yingyu swamp, one more won't make a difference." Lu Ping's eyebrows twitched. He suddenly thought of a famous cultivator in Hebei. He looked at the green-robed woman again and said with a smile, "The 9 bandits of Cyan Fox? You're quite lucky to be able to see such a famous cultivator in Hebei. This trip to the Yingyu swamp was not in vain." The 9 bandits of Cyan Robes were a wandering cultivator faction that roamed Hebei and the lower reaches of the Yulon River. They didn't have a base of operations and could only commit crimes in these 2 regions. They had robbed many cultivators and small forces, and were quite famous in the 2 regions. The leader of this group was a female cultivator named Cyan Fox. She was powerful and as cunning as a fox. She liked to dress in cyan, so she was called Cyan Fox. Her subordinates were also called the 9 bandits of Cyan Fox. The 9 bandits of Cyan Fox had done the most amazing thing in the world of cultivation. With the strength of 9 people, they defeated a small force called the Diligent Snow Sect. The reason for this was that one of the young masters of this force had unknowingly taken liberties with the leader of Cyan Fox and was killed by the other members of the 9 bandits of Cyan Fox. Afterwards, because they were in this sect's territory, they had no choice but to fight against the cultivators of the Diligent Snow Sect. In the end, they won. To be able to become a small force, this sect had to have Dharma idol Laozu at its helm. The 9 bandits of Cyan Fox had set up layers upon layers of arrangements. First, they had killed 3 late core formation cultivators of the Diligent Snow Sect who had rushed over upon hearing the news. Then, when they faced the Dharma ancestor of this sect, the 9 of them set up a Tao soldier formation that had been lost in the world of cultivation for a long time. It was called the 9 Palace Clear Void Formation. They severely injured the Dharma ancestor and forced him to flee, shocking the entire flatland and the cultivation world of Hebei. Afterwards, the 9 of them took advantage of their victory to attack the Diligent Snow Sect's training grounds. After a round of looting, they retreated. The Diligent Snow Sect didn't last long before collapsing. Because of this raid, the 9 of them had disappeared for a period of time. When they reappeared, almost all of their cultivations had significantly increased. In the 2 regions, they were like the sun at high noon. However, after this battle, this group of people who should have been more rampant became more and more low-key. They appeared less and less in the cultivation world of the 2 places. This also made it difficult for some sects of the 2 places who wanted to make an example out of them to others to track them down. Lu Ping didn't expect to meet these 9 legendary cultivators here. However, he didn't panic. Although their 9-palace void formation was powerful, Lu Ping still had to give them a chance to surround him. Lu Ping didn't expect to encounter these 9 legendary cultivators. Although the woman in the lead wore a veil, it still couldn't hide her enchanting charm. She smiled and said, "Your Excellency is so calm. Even after discovering us, you still want to hide the spirit vein. You are confident that we won't reveal the secret of the spirit vein. I wonder where your confidence comes from?" Although the woman's words were directed at Lu Ping, she was actually reminding the 8 subordinates behind her not to be impulsive. Since the other party was so confident, it was obvious that he still had some tricks up his sleeve. Lu Ping looked up at the woman and a hint of admiration appeared in his eyes. To be able to dominate the cultivation world of the 2 regions for decades with the strength of 9 people, whether it was in terms of wisdom or strength, was not something that ordinary people could compare to. It was no wonder that the Diligent Snow Sect's Dharma idol Laozu had fallen to her. Chapter 731. How should I address you? Greetings, Azure Fox. Qing Hu looked at Lu Ping with bright eyes. The 8 bandits behind her spread out, but they didn't surround Lu Ping. Instead, they seemed to be searching for something. At the same time, the 8 bandits each prepared themselves. Lu Ping could see that the 8 bandits had formed a defensive formation around Qing Hu. Lu Ping smiled, paying no heed to the 9 bandits' actions. He cupped his hands in greeting and said, "I am Lu Xianping." Lu Xianping? Qing Hu mulled over the name. Lu Ping was intrigued and asked, "What's wrong? Do you know who I am?" Ever since the Green Fox 9 bandits had injured the Diligent Snow Sect's Dharma adept, very few people in the world of cultivation would address Green Fox as young lady. Unintentionally, Green Fox found it refreshing. "I've heard that there's a new sect in the world of cultivation in Hebei called the Yingshan Immortal Academy. There's an 8-stage core forging stage elder Xian Ping in the academy. More than a year ago, he defeated the 3 heroes of the Gu clan single-handedly with 2 swords. Lu Ping was surprised by Azure Fox's intelligence. "Oh, I didn't think I would have such a reputation. Even boss Azure Fox has taken notice of me." When the 8 bandits behind Qing Hu heard their leader's words, they looked at Lu Ping warily. However, they didn't show any fear, they were just wary of Lu Ping. Sure enough, Qing Hu smiled and said, "Elder Lu is too polite. The 3 heroes of the Gu clan are famous existences among the late core forging cultivators of Hebei. However, they were defeated by my 9 heroes of Qing Hu." Lu Ping was surprised that the 9 bandits had fought against the 3 heroes of the Gu clan. "Oh, there's such a thing?" One of the core forging stage 8 cultivators behind Qing Hu was enraged by his boss's words. If it weren't for the Gu clan's 3 heroes being so shameless and asking their brothers for help when they couldn't beat them, those 3 would have been reduced to bones long ago. After that, he looked at his boss and complained, "Boss, why are you talking to this brat? 7th sister and 9th sister have already checked the surroundings. It's very clean. There's no ambush." "That's right," the other 8th-stage core forging cultivator said. "Kid, we don't care which sect you're from. You'd better scram now. We're taking this spirit vein. We're the Azure Fox 9 bandits, and we rarely kill. If you don't know what's good for you, you'll die by our hands." Lu Ping turned a deaf ear to their warnings. Instead, he looked at Qing Fox with interest and said, "The Qing Fox 9 bandits come and go like the wind, but now they're interested in the spirit vein? Could it be that they've found a place to base themselves? It seems like the 9 of you are after something big." The moment Lu Ping's words left his mouth, Azure Fox's eyes flashed with a cold light. However, she quickly regained her composure. Just as she was about to say something, the other bandits' expressions changed. 2 8th-stage core forging cultivators rushed forward and cursed, "Kid, you're tired of living." As soon as the 2 of them moved, the others had no choice but to follow suit in order to maintain their formation. Qing Hu sighed helplessly. She cast out a pair of battle axes that glinted with a cold gleam and tossed them into the air. The axes expanded in the air and the long handles seemed to be grasped by a pair of invisible hands. The huge axes slashed down at Lu Ping like a bolt of lightning. Lu Ping looked at the 9 cultivators charging at him, and his face gradually turned solemn. The 9 cultivators were actually able to superimpose their auras on one person and then suppress him. Once Lu Ping retreated or dodged, he would immediately be surrounded by the other cultivators from the left and right. In the end, he would fall into the 9 Palace Qing Su Dao soldier array formation formed by the 9 cultivators. He could only charge forward. At this moment, the huge axe rose into the air and chopped down at Lu Ping. If he faced it head-on, he would have to face an all-out attack from the strongest of the 9 bandits, Azure Fox. This huge axe was obviously a spirit-nurturing treasure. Although it was not as nimble and fast as a flying sword, it was heavy and powerful. Although it was strange for a woman to use it, the power of the huge axe was so strong that even a Dharma adept would not want to face it head-on. Just this axe alone was enough to show that this woman was not simple. Lu Ping's charming Autumn Waters sword and the 2 swords combined. After the combination, the 2 swords had the power of a spirit-nurturing treasure that was condensed from the 8 palaces' treasures. A beam of sword light shot up into the sky and slashed down at the huge axe. True Yuan Sword Chi. This set of sword techniques, which was originally just a small technique, was broken by Lu Ping's powerful inner yuan and unleashed the power of a great technique. The reason why Lu Ping used this technique instead of the original technique of the North C12 orthodox techniques was because the True Yuan Sword Chi itself was different from the 6 sword techniques of the North C12 orthodox techniques. It was more of an explosive technique, even though this technique could not fully utilize the pure and rich inner yuan of Lu Ping. Seeing that Lu Ping actually dared to face her head-on, Azure Fox's eyes lit up, and a look of approval flashed across her face. The other 8 bandits who had already surrounded Lu Ping all looked at him with disdain. So what if he could see through the Dao soldier array? In the world of practitioners, how many adepts of the same level would dare to face their boss head-on? Even Lao Zhu of the Diligent Snow sect had been blocked after taking a blow from Azure Fox. Then he was surrounded and seriously injured. Even though Azure Fox was also seriously injured at that time, could this Lu Xianping be more powerful than a Dharma adept? The huge sword light and the huge axe collided. For a moment, everyone was a little dazed. Then, the dull sound of the collision traveled far and wide. Within a radius of 500 feet, the muddy water in the swamp was sent flying up 300 feet into the air before falling back down as if it was raining mud. If not for the fact that everyone here had a high level of practice, this rain of mud would have been enough to make them look miserable. The strong waves of spiritual chi affected everyone's divine senses, and the heavy rain of mud blocked their vision. However, the 8 of them were able to maintain the stability of the array with Azure Fox by using the connection between the auras of the 9 palaces' clear void array. However, what shocked and frightened the 8 of them was that, through the connection between their auras, they realized that Azure Fox was in a very bad situation. When the rain of mud had dissipated, Lu Ping was still floating in midair, but his face was a little pale. At the same time, there was a hint of surprise in the corner of his mouth. It was as if he found it unbelievable that Azure Fox had been able to withstand his full-force attack. Azure Fox was slammed into the swamp by Lu Ping's sword. She took a few steps back, the splashing mud drenching her green robe. The entire 9 palaces clear void array shifted with her retreat, almost allowing Lu Ping to escape from the array. How was this possible? Could it be that this Lu Xianping was even more powerful than that Dharma adept Laozu? But he was clearly a level 8 core forging cultivator. Before the Azure Fox 9 bandits could suppress the shock in their hearts, Lu Ping let out a long howl and split his 2 swords into 2. Ignoring the other 8 bandits, he spun his swords and flew toward Azure Fox. Azure Fox could actually detect a hint of excitement in Lu Ping's howl. It was a kind of desire, the excitement of meeting a worthy opponent, and the desire to fight with all his might. Lu Ping really did need a hearty battle. In Lu Ping's memories, the last time he fought with all his might was when he escorted Yin Xianchu out of the Dragon Gate and fought against spiritual master Xuanzu. After that, he fought against Zhang Shi on Frost Island. He seemed to be hesitant to use his full strength back then. Most of the battles after that were chaotic. Only the battle against the 3 heroes of the Gu clan could be considered enjoyable, but that was only the battle of swordsmanship. Lu Ping had yet to reveal many of his trump cards. In the current world, how many cultivators of the same level could withstand Lu Ping's strongest attack? Even if there were, one shouldn't forget that Lu Ping had only ever used his strongest attack. He had never used his full strength. This was because his true essence was too heaven-defying, to the point that among the North Sea's 12 orthodox techniques, other than the incomplete Vast Sea's Mulberry Field scripture and the Sea of 100 Rivers sword scripture, none of the techniques could allow Lu Ping to fully utilize his true essence. Fight with all your might. It was as if the Milky Way had collapsed and the Milky Way had fallen to the ground. The great river flows east was the sword art that Lu Ping was most familiar with and had the deepest understanding of. Cyan Fox felt as if she were trapped in a boundless torrent. Wave after wave of swords surged toward her without end, and she felt as if she could be drowned by the torrent at any moment. The giant axe cleaved down, but it was unable to completely separate the torrent of sword energy. Even if you cut water with a knife, the water would still flow. How could the water be cut off? Pervasive was the characteristic of flowing water. Lu Ping had unleashed this set of sword skills to the extreme. It was no longer just a set of sword skills, but a real body that had transformed into a raging river that flowed endlessly. Defense. After the Azure Fox 9 bandits mastered this lost ancient Dao soldier formation, this was the first time they had used their full strength to defend themselves in a life-and-death battle. Even when they were besieged by the Gu clan's cultivators during the battle with the 3 heroes of the Gu clan, the Azure Fox 9 bandits could only retreat as they fought. Then, when the opponent was about to win, they suddenly turned around and severely injured 5 core forging realm cultivators before retreating calmly. From the very beginning, Lu Ping had the upper hand in this Dao soldier formation. Lu Ping alone had suppressed all 9 of them, and the weakness was Azure Fox, who was the host of the formation. In front of Lu Ping's absolute advantage, Azure Fox, who was originally the strongest, had become the weakest link in the Dao soldier formation. The other 8 wanted to surround Azure Fox and rescue her, but before they could hand over their Dharma treasures, Azure Fox was about to be drowned by the torrent of sword energy. The 8 could only retreat to Azure Fox's side and combine the power of the entire Dao soldier formation to stop Lu Ping's attack. Chapter 732. The fated lady in autumn waters spun and entangled Green Fox, cutting off any possibility of her contacting the other 8 bandits. 2 of the strongest great bandits rushed forward to attack Lu Ping. But when they saw a sword ray that was even bigger than the one in front of them, they shrieked and retreated. Flying spirit nurturing sword. How can he control 3 spirit nurturing treasures at the same time? The flowing sword was not easily seen through in the Middle Lands. It was just that the power of fated person in Autumn Water's harmonious swords was far greater than that of a single flowing sword. However, the flowing sword was a spirit-nurturing treasure that had been condensed with 8 treasures. Under Lu Ping's control, it was not something a late-stage core forging cultivator could easily withstand. Although the 2 bandits' attacks were scattered, they still landed on Lu Ping. At this time, Lu Ping's main focus was on trapping Green Fox, so he was unable to move. He could only take the initiative to attack and disrupt the opponent's rhythm. Just as the scattered attacks were about to land on Lu Ping's body was suddenly enveloped by a layer of rainbow cloud robe. The attacks that landed on Lu Ping's body only caused slight ripples. The fourth spirit nurturing treasure. The two core forging stage 8 cultivators realized that they might have really run into an iron wall today. A mere core forging stage 8 cultivator wielding 4 spirit nurturing treasures in a single breath to fight. Furthermore, the other party's expression was still calm. Could it be that this person was a disciple secretly nurtured by the 5 Holy Lands? The two 7th-stage core forging cultivators slashed at Green Fox's flying swords from the left and right, intending to rescue her. A drought heavenly thunder exploded in the sky, and 2 thunderbolts descended from the sky, striking down on the 2 men's heads. The 2 helplessly retreated, using all their strength to defend against the bolts of lightning. However, it seemed as though there was no end to the heavenly lightning. First, there were lightning of water, lightning of metal, lightning of earth, lightning of second wood, lightning of third fire, and other lightning of the 5 elements. However, these lightning techniques were clearly stronger than the ones that ordinary cultivators could unleash. Could it be that this guy has the bloodline of the Yuan clan? Or is he a member of the Yuan clan? That's impossible. The Yuan clan's paranoid people have always thought that their family's thunder technique is invincible in the world. They've never bothered to cultivate any kind of sword technique. The two 6th-stage core forging female cultivators were mainly responsible for restraining and defending the Dao soldier formation. When they saw Lu Ping's ferocious aura, they each released their own protective Dharma treasures, intending to help their 2 companions resist the lightning. However, before the 2 of them could move forward, a golden sword light slashed one of them to the point of tumbling, frightening the other to the point of hurriedly placing the guardian magic treasure that she had already activated in front of her. With a crisp clang, an enormous force came from the guardian magic treasure and sent her flying in one go. However, she didn't notice the slightest sign of being attacked beforehand. In the process of being sent flying, the female cultivator only saw a flash of purple light. Lu Ping shook his head regretfully. After all, he had to split his mind into 2 parts. Even though his divine sense wasn't any weaker than a peak early Dharma adept's, and the 8 strange Jiao dragons in his heart core were surging and breathing out endless true essence to support Lu Ping's battle, he still couldn't control 3 flying swords at the same time, 1 spirit-nourishing treasure robe, 1 psychic 7 thunder treasures gourd, and 2 psychic flying swords at the same time. Under normal circumstances, even if the water spirit sword couldn't hit the 6th-stage core forging female cultivator, the huge force of the sword would be enough to seriously injure her. Now, she was only sent flying. There was still a 6th-stage core forging male cultivator left. Seeing that Lu Ping didn't use any tricks to deal with him, he thought that Lu Ping had also reached his limit. Instantly, he relaxed and took out one of his magic treasures to attack Green Fox, who was getting tighter and tighter with the Autumn Dew sword. He didn't expect to be able to break through Lu Ping's dual flying swords. As long as he could cause the dual flying swords to pause for a moment, he believed that his boss would definitely be able to seize the opportunity to break out of the encirclement. This was a tacit understanding. However, before his magic treasures could fly close to him, he suddenly heard a loud noise in his ears. Following that, it was as if a training ground had appeared in his mind, and all sorts of sounds poured into it. His eyes reflected the 9th sister's anxious cries at him, and then he couldn't hear a single word. The magic treasures that were originally flying towards the dual flying swords suddenly became crooked, as if they were drunk and had no strength left. With great difficulty, he retracted his divine sense that had been scattered by Lu Ping, and the colors of the world finally returned to his eyes. However, he felt a warm sensation flowing through his nose, mouth, and ears. When he touched them with his hand, he discovered that they were all bright red. Before he could feel the lingering fear in his heart, the cultivator who had just recovered his hearing heard a long laugh. When he looked up, he saw that the cultivator who had been trapped by his own formation had already risen into the air, completely escaping from the formation's range. Although the Azure Fox 9 bandits live up to their reputation, they can't do anything to me. Today's battle was very satisfying. If fate allows it, we'll compete again. Today we'll part ways. The autumn dew sword flew back, and Green Fox stood there in a daze. The other 9 cultivators turned pale with fright, and they cried out, "Boss, big sister, are you all right?" Green Fox reached out and touched the top of her head. The 2 ends of her hair were neat and shiny, and she held them in her hands. Her jet black hair flowed down from her head to her waist like a waterfall. The other 8 cultivators felt a chill run from the top of their heads to the soles of their feet, and they were all stunned speechless. At this moment, Green Fox suddenly stepped forward and shouted toward Lu Ping's departing figure, "Since you're leaving, we, the Azure Fox 9 bandits, will take this spirit vein." Lu Ping's figure didn't stop, and he didn't turn around. Only one word drifted over from afar. "How dare you!" At this moment, Green Fox shouted to the 2 female cultivators behind her, as if in a fit of pique, "Seventh sister, 9th sister, dismantle his formation." The 2 female cultivators looked at each other. Although they felt that their big sister's order was a little inappropriate, they couldn't find a reason to refute it. The 2 of them stepped forward and were about to cast a spell to break open the muddy pond that Lu Ping had restored. However, just as the 2 of them arrived in front of the muddy pond, 3 rays of light, 1 white, 1 blue, and 1 purple, suddenly erupted from the muddy pond. "Demonic cultivators!" Green Fox cried out in alarm. However, the 2 female cultivators couldn't dodge in time. They felt a sharp pain in their legs, and just as they were about to kill the 2 demonic snakes, they saw a whip flying toward their faces. Under certain circumstances, the face was even more important than the core space. The 2 female cultivators cried out in alarm and hurriedly retreated, but the 3 rays of light were already shooting in the direction that Lu Ping had left. Even Green Fox couldn't react in time. Not only was she exhausted from her battle with Lu Ping, but more importantly, the 3 rays of light coordinated well with each other and were no weaker than the 2 female cultivators. As the 3 rays of light left, Green Fox could clearly see that they were 3 small snakes about a foot long, and each of them had a cultivation of the 5th layer core forging realm. Lu Ping's ethereal voice came from afar. "Don't even think about curing the poison. Once we're done with the lush jade swamp, we'll just have to make a trip to the lush mountain immortal academy." Green Fox rolled up 7th sister and 9th sister's calves. There were 2 bite marks on each of their calves, but not a single drop of blood flowed out. One of the wounds was already covered in a layer of ice, but 7th sister didn't feel anything strange. On the other hand, the area around 9th sister's wound seemed to have been weathered, and a layer of crisp skin had appeared. 9th sister was so frightened that tears welled up in her eyes. "Try to circulate your quintessential essence and see if you can force the poison out," Green Fox said with a frown. "Big sister, you can't." 9th sister said with tears in her eyes, "When I circulate my quintessential essence, I can't feel the poison at all, but my skin has become like this. What should I do?" 7th sister was much more resilient than 9th sister. She said straightforwardly, "Big sister, could that person be bluffing? 9th sister and I weren't poisoned at all?" Beside her, a core forging level 8 cultivator shouted, "7th sister, don't be silly. If you weren't poisoned, how could the ice on your wounds not melt?" Green Fox nodded and said, "Green Tiger is right. Not only were 7th sister and 9th sister poisoned, but those 3 snake demons are also extraordinary. If we don't do as he says and move the spirit vein away, I'm afraid the 2 sisters will really die from the poison." Another core forging level 8 cultivator had a ferocious look on his face as he said fiercely, "Big sister, why don't we just kill our way to the Yingshan Immortal Academy now? The Yingshan Immortal Academy has only been established for 11 or 12 years. Their leader, the Dharma adept, Guotianshan, must be in the swamp now. That Lu Xianping must be one of the 81 adepts. How many people are left in the Yingshan Immortal Academy now? Don't tell me all the adepts in the academy are as powerful as Lu Xianping? As long as we can capture a few disciples, We can just exchange them with him. This person's methods seemed violent, but his analysis was reasonable. At that moment, even Green Tiger, who was on the other side, was moved. Green Fox sighed and said, "Green Wolf, don't be anxious. Right now, all the major sects are guarding their sect's array. If we attack now, let's not talk about whether we will succeed or not. This will definitely cause a public outcry in the Hebei cultivation world. At that time, let's not even talk about whether the two sisters will be able to recover from the poison. If anything happens to the other brothers, we, the Green Fox 9 heroes, will lose our name." Green Fox sighed in her heart. The reason why the 9 thieves were able to come together was because they were on the same wavelength. Their strength was secondary. To put it bluntly, other than Green Fox, the 9 of them were only slightly stronger than ordinary core forging adepts of the same level. This was also because they had broken the Diligent Snow sect's array and looted half of the sect's treasures, which had greatly increased their strength. The 9 of them had only relied on a lost ancient, 9 palaces clear void Dao soldier array. Are we just going to let it go like this? The one who spoke was the 8th, the 6th level core forging adept who bled from his nose and mouth after being shaken by Lu Ping's will. Of the 9, he was the most wretched of them all, suffering heavy injuries before even exchanging a single move with Lu Ping. This caused his hatred for Lu Ping to surpass his fear. Green Fox gritted her teeth and said, "Come, let's go find my sworn brother. He's also at the lush jade swamp. Perhaps he has a way." Chapter 733. After the Green Fox 9 bandits left, a monster bee with a body half covered in purple flew out shakily from a low but stubbornly growing bramble. The monster bee wobbled its body in the air as if it was shaking off the muddy water that splashed up from the battle. Then, it chased after Lu Ping in the direction Lu Ping had left. Several dozen kilometers away, Lu Ping found a relatively dry place with great difficulty. He swallowed a pill and began to recover his true essence. The reason why Lu Ping had retreated instead of killing the 9 was because the lush jade swamp was filled with dangers. Lu Ping needed to maintain the strength to deal with any unexpected situations. Lu Ping could kill all of the Cyan Fox 9 bandits, but once Lu Ping did that, he would definitely suffer from a loss of true essence. Even if Lu Ping had the Myriad Wonder due to speed up his true essence recovery, Lu Ping's enormous amount of true essence couldn't be replenished in one go in a short amount of time. If a cultivator attacked Lu Ping at this time, Lu Ping would very likely put Zhao Yu in danger. Just as Lu Ping circulated the North Sea Wave listening technique and the true essence in his body began to continuously recover, a purple crystal wasp chased after Lu Ping from behind and landed in front of Lu Ping. Lu Ping smiled faintly and said, "You sure talk big. You want to attack the Immortal Academy? Aren't you afraid of breaking your teeth?" He had already seen that the Cyan Fox 9 bandits was the only truly powerful one. The other 8 were at most a bit stronger than ordinary cultivators. With this kind of strength, if they reached the overflowing Mountain Immortal Academy, they probably wouldn't even be able to break through the sect's great protective formation. In the evening, the mist in the lush jade swamp gradually thickened. A gentle breeze blew past, making people feel as if they were in an immortal realm. However, Lu Ping's expression suddenly changed. He swung the long sword in his hand at the breeze behind him, as if he wanted to cut it in half. A blood-curdling scream rang out as a green Azura fell from the wind. It was a wind Azura. Lu Ping casually picked up the weapon in the Shura's hand, and then the Shura gradually weathered away in the breeze. Lu Ping had been in the lush jade swamp for 5 days now. The lush jade swamp was worthy of being called a dangerous place in the cultivation world of Hebei. During those 5 days, Lu Ping had encountered various dangers, both hidden and dangerous. Because he discovered that the poisonous miasma floating in the lush jade swamp and the poisonous essence of poison Azura were effective in refining the myriad poison liquid and condensing the myriad wonder dew, Lu Ping tried his best to search for traces of poison Azura in these 5 days. However, poison Azura were rare existences among the Azura race. Coupled with the Asura's unique concealment technique, even though Lu Ping had discovered and killed many Asuras, including the one he killed 5 days ago, there were only 4 poison Asuras, including the one he killed 5 days ago. 2 of them were just ordinary blood condensation Asuras. However, Lu Ping gradually discovered that as the miasma and poison accumulated in the myriad poison liquid, the poisonous miasma in the lush jade swamp had no effect on the condensation of the myriad wonder dew. Lu Ping did not know if the same would happen if the poison Asura's poisonous essence was absorbed, but at least the 2 blood condensation Asuras had no effect on the condensation of the myriad wonder dew. The second threat in the lush jade swamp were the ferocious beasts. Due to Mara's dove nest sparrow's occupation of the Hubei cultivation world, the number of ferocious beasts in the swamp had decreased sharply. However, the surviving ferocious beasts were either tyrannical in strength or had concealment techniques that were not inferior to Asura's. These 2 types of ferocious beasts were undoubtedly the most threatening to cultivators. Perhaps it was because Lu Ping was not in a hurry to enter the depths of the lush jade swamp, but during these 5 days, Lu Ping did not encounter too many tyrannical ferocious beasts. However, the ferocious beasts that appeared and disappeared unpredictably annoyed Lu Ping. If it were not for Lu Ping's strength, these ferocious beasts that excelled in concealment, speed, and sneak attacks would have already succeeded. As Lu Ping walked through the swamp, he could hear the screams of cultivators almost every day. By the time Lu Ping arrived, there were only mutilated corpses left on the ground. He did not know if these corpses were killed by ferocious beasts or Asuras, or if they were killed by their own kind. However, the hidden danger was the increasing number of cultivators swarming into the lush jade swamp. These cultivators were a mix of good and bad. In the past few days, Lu Ping had encountered some cultivators or groups of cultivators. Lu Ping could sense a faint hostility from these people. There were even traces of killing intent towards a lone cultivator like Lu Ping. If it were not for the fact that Lu Ping wanted to show off his strength, causing others to hold back from attacking him, Lu Ping would have been ambushed countless times by now. Just as Lu Ping picked up the Wind Asura's weapon, the ground beneath Lu Ping's feet suddenly bulged. The soil beneath him sunk down, revealing a huge mouth filled with wriggling white flesh. The mouth wanted to swallow Lu Ping from head to toe. Puchi! Lu Ping was swallowed by the huge mouth. The walls of flesh around him squeezed down, turning Lu Ping into a puddle of water as he was sucked into the huge mouth. Tens of zhang up in the sky, Lu Ping looked down at the huge mouth beneath his feet and the body behind it, which was as thick as a water bucket. He could not help but frown in disgust. It was actually a huge earthworm. Having missed its attack, the huge earthworm seemed to have sensed danger. It turned around and tried to escape back into the swamp, but it was already too late. 3 huge snake bodies flashed past, wrapping around the huge earthworm's body from both sides. Then they tore it apart in opposite directions. With a pot sound, the huge body, which was tens of zhang long, was torn into 3 pieces by Samling. However, the earthworm's body was still writhing violently. Its life force was unbelievably tenacious. At this moment, 3 huge snake heads, 1 green, 1 blue, and 1 white, suddenly rose from the surrounding swamp. Samling had returned to his original form. His body was not much different from the huge earthworm, but his strength was far beyond the earthworm's. The 3 snake mouths bit down on the earthworm's 3 pieces. The earthworm, which had been struggling violently, quickly stopped moving and died completely. At this moment, Lu Bai dug out a fist-sized beast core from the earthworm's head. This was the condensation of the earthworm's entire essence. When Lu Ping saw this beast core, he shook his hand and released Debao. Debao's nose was very sensitive. His beady eyes stared at the beast core and couldn't move away. Little sister Bai, quickly give this beast core to big brother Debao. Right now, I'm basically recultivating. I'm counting on this beast core to increase my cultivation. Debao's cultivation had been sealed by Lu Ping using a special sealing technique passed down by his teacher. Now, he had only recovered to the peak of the 5th layer of the blood condensation realm. He couldn't even transform. This earthworm's longevity pill was obviously made of pure earth essence. It was a great supplement for Debao, As long as Lu Ping refined a batch of pills, Debeo would be able to remove the impurities from the longevity pill and consume it. He believed that he would be able to recover to the 6th layer of the blood condensation realm in a short period of time. After a while, breaking through to the late blood condensation realm wouldn't be a problem. Lu Bai smiled and was about to pass the longevity pill to Debeo. However, a snow-white hand suddenly appeared and snatched the longevity pill from Lu Bai's hand. When Debeo saw who it was, his expression immediately changed. Lu Bai, who was beside him, made a helpless expression. Hee, big brother Debeo, you want this beast core? This beast core isn't the work of eldest sister alone, but the 3 of us work together to kill this large earthworm to obtain it. If you want this beast core, just having eldest sister's agreement isn't enough. Second brother and I haven't agreed yet. Lu Linger tossed the beast core in her hand into the air and caught it again. Debeo's heart was thumping wildly as the beast core rose and fell in Lu Linger's hand. He was afraid that Lu Linger would be careless and drop the beast core on the ground. If it was tainted, the value of the beast core would be greatly reduced. Good sister, don't throw it away. Quickly give this beast core to Big Brother Debeo. Big Brother Debeo's cultivation is the weakest right now. He's counting on this beast core to transform. Debeo pleaded softly. Even if you recover your cultivation, you'll still be the weakest. Little Sister Xylan has already advanced to the 3rd layer of the core forging realm. Big Brother Debeo is also at the peak of the 2nd layer. In any case, your cultivation is also the weakest. It doesn't matter if you don't have this beast core or not. Lu Linger's small face twisted, no longer paying attention to Debeo. Debeo looked at Lu Ping with a pleading gaze, but he saw that Lu Ping had swallowed a pill to restore qi and had begun to refine and cultivate. Debeo had no choice but to cry and said, "Little Sister Linger, tell me, what do I have to do to give this beast core to me?" Lu Linger's plot had succeeded. She immediately changed her expression and said with a smile, "Big Brother Debeo, look at Linger's pair of daggers. They are the magic weapons that Father gave me, but they haven't been upgraded to spiritual magic weapons yet. Second Brother's magic weapon has already been prepared with the best spiritual materials. When we go back this time, it will be upgraded to a spiritual magic weapon. Big Sister's is the same. Only I haven't prepared it yet." When Debeo heard this, his whole body trembled and he said, "Linger, don't even think about it. Tell me, how many things have you extorted from me alone? Big Brother loves you the most and has given you very few good things. I don't believe that you don't have the best spiritual materials to upgrade the magic weapons in your hands. Why are you only staring at the things in my hands?" Lu Linger did not let it go. She said, "Oh, Big Brother Debeo, you are the treasure-hunting mouse. In the future, you will certainly be a Taoist plentiful treasure who is even more powerful than Father's plentiful treasure boy. A little spiritual material is nothing. I know you definitely have it." Debeo firmly shook his head and said, "No, I really don't." Lu Linger suddenly frowned and said, "You dare to say you don't have it? Where is the weapon of the Isazura that Father killed 2 days ago? Don't think that I don't know that it was you who took it. If you don't give it to me, I will boil this beast core with Big Sister and Second Brother. Anyway, although this beast core does not match the attributes of the 3 of us, it still has a lot of benefits." After that, Lu Linger took out a jade bowl out of nowhere. It was filled with clear water and she was really about to throw the longevity pill into it. Debeo suddenly panicked and hurriedly said, I'll give it to you, okay?" After the 2 finished the transaction, Lu Ping had almost recovered the qi in his body. He turned to Debeo and the others and said, "Okay, come with me to watch a good show." Chapter 734. Lu Ping raised his right hand, and a ball of colorful light shone out, surrounding his entire body. Then the light became dimmer and dimmer, and when the light dissipated, there was no trace of Lu Ping. There were 18 small to medium-sized sects in the Hebei training world. 6 of them were medium-sized sects, and these 6 medium-sized sects were further divided into the 3 upper and 3 lower sections. The 3 upper sects were the spiritual martial clan, the Taihua clan, and the Yuezhou sect. Because these 3 sects all had late Dharma adepts in charge, they were called the 3 upper sections. Originally, each of the 3 upper sects had only one great adept in charge. The 3 sects kept each other in check, maintaining the overall balance of the Hebei training world, and were the main controllers of the Hebei training world. The 3 lower sects were the Yundu sect, the Gu clan, and the Zongling sect. These 3 sects did not have any great adepts, but each sect had at least 3 mid-Dharma adepts. The Gu clan and the Zongling sect were about equal in strength, and both had 3 mid-Dharma adepts, Laozu. They only had 1 or 2 more early Dharma adepts than the Zongling sect. However, when Mara ravaged Hebei, the spiritual martial clan, in order to reduce their losses, exposed the great adept, Wu Lingfeng Laozu, who had been hiding for a long time. The appearance of ancestor Wu Lingfeng had caused the spirit martial sect to become the sect that had suffered the lightest calamity in the Hebei cultivation world, other than the Yingshan Immortal Academy, which had only risen after the calamity of Devil Luo. However, it had also completely broken the balance of the Hebei cultivation world, and the spirit martial sect had been pushed to the forefront of the storm. This time, the spirit martial sect had no choice but to take control of the Hebei cultivation world by launching the encirclement and suppression of the lush jade swamp. At this time, a few miles away, a group of 6 late core forging adepts were shouting at each other as they surrounded the 6 Shuras, and then began to attack. Among the 6 Shuras, 3 of them had the strength of a late core forging adept, and 2 of them were slightly weaker, but they were also mid-core forging adepts. Although the 6 human cultivators undoubtedly had the upper hand on the battlefield, the headless Azura relied on their elusive escape techniques to prevent the 6 of them from turning the situation into a victory. At this time, several different howls suddenly sounded around the battlefield. The leader of the 6 human adepts was Immortal Gu Hun, an old acquaintance of Lu Ping's. When he heard the howls around him, Immortal Gu Hun's heart sank, but then the situation seemed to develop in a worse direction. The muffled roars came closer and closer. Gradually, the ground began to shake more and more violently. Reverend Gu Hun bellowed, "Quick, let's go!" A large number of ferocious beasts are coming this way. There was no need for spiritual Master Gu Hun to say anything. The other 6 people shook off their opponents and fled into the sky. However, the 6 Azuras were people who would not rest until they were dead. Seeing that the 6 people were fleeing, they immediately chased after them and pestered them relentlessly, delaying their escape. Immortal Gu Hun did not need to say anything. The other 6 people shook off their opponents and fled into the sky. However, the 6 Shuras were relentless. Seeing that the 6 people were about to escape, they immediately chased after them and attacked them. After getting rid of the Azura's entanglement, spiritual Master Gu Hun summoned his magic weapon and wanted to save a Gu family disciple on the other side. However, before he could do anything, a total of 10 ferocious beasts had already rushed into the battle with infinite power, and both cultivators and Azuras were fighting wildly. Fortunately, the 3 sides were fighting in a chaotic battle, and the loss was not limited to the human adepts. The 10 Shura were killed on the spot, and 5 of the Shura were killed by the humans and Shura. Thankfully, the human cultivators weren't the only ones who suffered losses in this 3-way battle. The 10 beasts' mindless attacks had also killed 2 Azuras on the spot, while 5 of the beasts had been killed by the combined attacks of the humans and Azuras. At that moment, a long howl rang out from afar. A beam of sword light pierced through the sky, carrying with it a boundless might. The remaining 4 cultivators stared in shock as the sword light pierced through 2 beasts that were over 6 meters tall and weighed over 5,000 kilograms. Amidst the Shura's earth-shaking roars, they fell onto the muddy swamp. Their blood splashed and dyed the ground within a radius of 10 meters red. Reverend Gu Hun's reaction was the fastest. His shuttle pierced through an Azura not far away. At the same time, he looked towards the direction of the flying sword and shouted, "Is it Yingshan Immortal Academy's elder Xianping?" Yingshan Immortal Academy's elder Xianping was an influential figure among the late core forging cultivators of Hebei's cultivation world in the last 2 years. He had become famous by stepping on the Gu clan's 3 heroes. The autumn water sword flew back and was caught by Lu Ping, who was standing on the Yiren sword. He laughed and said, "Brother Gu, I took the liberty to attack. Please don't take offense." Gu Hun used his magic treasure to block Inshura's attack and saved one of his companions from the brink of death. He said bitterly, "Brother Xianping, don't be so humble. Please help us quickly. I didn't expect our luck to be so bad. We were attacked by the Shura and the Shura from both inside and outside. Of the remaining 4 cultivators, 2 were already wounded." Only Gu Hun and the other 9th-layer core forging cultivator were still able to maintain their full combat power. Lu Ping did not say anything. He swung his autumn water sword and trapped a wind Shura in the air. No matter how the wind Shura tried to attack, Lu Ping's true eyes of the 3 pure was able to find it. In just a few exchanges, the Shura crashed into the moon water sword that had been lying in ambush in the air and inexplicably turned into a corpse. At this time, there were still 3 ferocious beasts and 2 Azuras fighting against enlightened Master Gu Hun and the others. Lu Ping patted his flying swords, which immediately turned into 2 azure flood dragons that charged towards 2 of the ferocious beasts. The 2 cultivators Lu Ping saved looked at Lu Ping gratefully, then turned to help Gu Hun and the other 9th-layer core forging cultivator. With Lu Ping's help, enlightened Master Gu Hun and the others quickly regained their advantage. The 4 of them worked in pairs and killed the remaining 2 late core forging Azuras in one fell swoop, while the last Azura fought a ferocious beast and was heavily injured. Then, enlightened Master Gu Hun's shuttle pierced through the Azura. The 4 of them turned around and were about to help Lu Ping, but the 2 Azure Jiao dragons let out a sword cry. When the Azure Jiao dragons formed from countless sword rays dispersed, the 2 ferocious beasts had already become 2 piles of minced meat. The 4 of them couldn't help but suck in a breath of cold air. Gu Hun and the others stepped forward to thank Lu Ping and introduced the other 3 to Lu Ping. The 9th-layer core forging cultivator was a cultivator from Cloud Capital Sect, one of the lower 3 sections. One of the other 2 was a disciple of the Gu clan, one of the 81 cultivators who entered the lush jade swamp this time. The other was a cultivator from Tsang Ling Sect, one of the lower 3 sections. Gu Hun cupped his hands towards Lu Ping gratefully. If it weren't for Brother Xuanping's help, the consequences would have been unimaginable. Lu Ping waved his hand. "It's what I should do. Sigh, if I had come earlier, I might have been able to save the 2 fellow Taoists." The 9th-layer core forging cultivator from Cloud Capital Sect, enlightened Master Lu Yun, waved his hand. "Brother Lu, there's no need to blame yourself. Junior brother Feiyun and fellow Taoist Mu Chang were unlucky to be surrounded by 4 fierce beasts and 2 Azuras." At this time, Lu Ping was a little puzzled and hesitant. "Please forgive me for my recklessness. Why did you provoke the Azuras and then the fierce beasts? It's too dangerous." Lu Ping's words stunned the 4. Enlightened Master Lu Yun smiled bitterly. "Brother Xianping, you misunderstand. There are only 6 of us, and our strength is only slightly higher than the 6 Azuras. Why would we provoke the fierce beasts? It's just that when we were fighting the Azuras, the 10 fierce beasts rushed over and we couldn't dodge in time. Come to think of it, it's really bad luck. How did we encounter such a situation?" Enlightened Master Gu Hun let out a long sigh. He continued enlightened Master Lu Yun's words. "Yes, this is too much of a coincidence. So that's how it is." Lu Ping didn't seem to hear the hidden meaning in enlightened Master Gu Hun's words. He pondered for a moment and said, "The fierce beasts don't have any intelligence. Generally speaking, there are only 3 circumstances for 10 different fierce beasts to gather together." Enlightened Master Gu Hun glanced at Lu Ping and said calmly, "Oh, Brother Lu knows something about the fierce beasts as well?" Lu Ping didn't think much of it and nodded. "I know a little. Generally speaking, when the fierce beasts gather together, it's most likely because they're facing an unstoppable threat from the outside, causing them to abandon killing each other and flee together. If it's a place filled with fierce beasts, it's very likely to form a beast stampede. At this time, enlightened Master Lu Yun also heard the hidden meaning in Lu Ping's words and asked, "Are there any other circumstances?" Lu Ping nodded. "There's another possibility. They were ordered by someone." Enlightened Master Lu Yun asked curiously, "Who else can order these fellows without intelligence?" Lu Ping laughed. "Brother Lu Yun, have you forgotten who originally treated this lush jade swamp as their own backyard?" A fierce light flashed through enlightened Master Lu Yun's eyes. "The monsters of the Yulon River?" Lu Ping nodded. "That's right. However, aside from the monsters of the Yulon River, someone else seems to be able to order these fierce beasts." Enlightened Master Gu Hun narrowed his eyes. "The Spirit Beast Tamer Sect," Lu Ping said calmly, but his words shocked the other four. Enlightened Master Gu Hun pondered for a moment, then said, "It's unlikely to be the Spirit Beast Tamer Sect. Although the Spirit Beast Tamer Sect is vicious in their conduct in the world of cultivation, they are extremely secretive and rarely interact with the cultivators of other sects, nor do they take the initiative to provoke others." Enlightened Master Lu Yun nodded. "There's an 80% chance that it's the monsters of the Yulon River. This time, the cultivation world of Hebei was originally planning to take advantage of the opportunity to encircle and annihilate Mara to completely incorporate this swamp into the territory of the human cultivators. The monsters of the Yulon River have operated this place for many years, so they naturally won't let it go." Seeing that the others seemed to agree with enlightened Master Lu Yun's guess, Lu Ping smiled. "Perhaps we can personally see the person behind this." Enlightened Master Gu Hun and enlightened Master Lu Yun exchanged a glance, then enlightened Master Gu Hun turned to look at Lu Ping. "Elder Xian Ping, do you have any ideas?" Chapter 735. Lu Ping bid farewell to Taoist Gu Hun and the other four. Then, Lu Ping headed southwest, while Taoist Gu Hun and the other three headed southeast. In a moment, the two groups disappeared into the dusky world. A slight breeze blew the smell of blood into the air, leaving only the corpses of fierce beasts on the ground. It was clear that there had been a life-and-death battle here just now. Suddenly he felt dazed. For some reason, two black-clothed people had appeared on the battlefield. These people wore black cloths over their faces. He didn't know what the cloth was made of, but it was able to prevent cultivators from probing with their divine sense. The two black-clothed men didn't move after they appeared. They just stood there quietly, ignoring the huge bodies of the fierce beasts behind them. A moment later, one of the cultivators suddenly said in a hoarse voice, "They're here." A dense fog suddenly burst in front of the two, as if blown by the wind. Then, a cultivator in light golden robes walked out of the fog. After seeing the two black-robed cultivators, the man grumbled, 10 core forging level fierce beasts. They're usually fierce characters, but they were so easily killed by someone. How am I supposed to explain this to them when I get back? Didn't you guys vow earlier that there would be no problem? Why did a cultivator named Xian Ping suddenly appear out of nowhere? Now, not only were all the fierce beasts under my control killed, but I will also be punished when I go back. The black-clothed men ignored the man's complaints. One of them directly asked, "This time, it was just a coincidence." Taoist Master Xian Ping's strength is indeed unexpected, but he usually acts alone, so he won't affect our plan too much. Instead, our follow-up actions can't be affected. Have you made the arrangements? When the golden-robed cultivator heard the black-clothed man question him, a trace of anger flashed in his eyes, but he still said, "Don't worry, everything has already been taken care of." At the very least, the late core forging cultivators of Hebei's cultivation world will be greatly weakened. These people are the lifeblood of Hebei's sections. When the time comes, they will feel distressed. The three of them discussed something else. Next, the two men in black took the lead to leave. After that, the golden-robed cultivator fiercely spat a mouthful of saliva onto the ground. Next, his figure gradually grew fainter within the mist. As for the surrounding mist, it gradually condensed. A gust of wind blew and the massive ball of mist began surging into the depths of the swamp. The two black-clothed men flew towards the depths of the swamp, but they did not notice that there were many colors in the fog around them. One of them seemed to have a higher cultivation and quickly noticed that something was wrong. The two of them suddenly stopped and looked around. At the same time, two magic treasures suddenly appeared and revolved around the two of them. The multicolored clouds around them gradually became thicker, and their expressions also became more and more solemn. At this moment, the surrounding multicolored clouds suddenly began to roll, pressing towards the two people in the middle from all directions. A long shuttle suddenly pierced through the cover of the clouds and mist. By the time the two of them noticed it, the long shuttle had already pierced the relatively short cultivator. "Junior brother, be careful," the black-clothed senior brother cried out in alarm. However, he did not move to help his junior brother resist the attack. Instead, he focused all his attention on the surrounding churning clouds and mist. He believed that his junior brother would be able to block such a sneak attack. However, the other party had set up such a formation. It was obviously not the work of one person. The other party must have cultivators hidden in the surroundings. Since the black-clothed senior brother had to guard against possible sneak attacks from others, he naturally would not let his guard down. The sound of a sword whistling could be heard. The black-clothed senior brother's spirit was shaken. His divine sense had already captured the magic treasure hidden in the clouds and attacking him. The magic treasure hovering in front of him rushed into the thick fog. At the same time, a bone shield rose from his body. In the air, 3 light shadows appeared and surrounded the black-clothed senior brother. Although the black-clothed senior brother did not think that the people hidden in the surroundings could catch up to him, his hundreds of years of experience had taught him the principle of a lion using its full strength to catch a rabbit. This caution had finally saved his life today. However, it had only saved his life for a moment. The black-clothed senior brother had just raised the bone shield when his expression changed through his divine sense. Then, an ear-piercing sound rang out. The black-clothed senior brother's magic treasure seemed to have been seriously injured in one blow. He reached out to recall his magic treasure. The surrounding scene became increasingly blurred. Something broke through the thick fog. However, it was not the magic treasure from before. Instead, a pair of flying swords had already rushed out and slashed at the shield. Clang, clang. 2 crisp sounds rang out. The black-clothed senior brother's face paled and he involuntarily took 2 steps back. His face was covered with a mask, but his eyes clearly flashed with shock. At this moment, another object rushed out of the thick fog. It was the magic treasure that the black-clothed senior brother had shot out. At this moment, it was staggering and undulating. It was obvious that it had been seriously injured. The 2 flying swords retreated after missing their attack. The black-clothed senior brothers secretly cursed. However, it was already too late. The 2 swords returned to entangle the heavily injured magic treasure. The 2 swords trembled slightly and over 1,000 sword lights slashed at the magic treasure. No matter how the magic treasure dodged, it could not escape from the thousands of sword lights. The magic treasure was immediately broken in 2. The black-clothed senior brother shouted angrily and spat out an arrow of blood from his mouth. After the 2 swords cut the magic treasure, they seemed to be exhausted and returned to the thick fog. At this moment, the black-clothed senior brother seemed to realize something. When he turned around, he did not know when his junior brother had disappeared. In the thick fog, there were bursts of roars from spells. Among them was the black-clothed junior brother's fierce shout. The black-clothed senior brother could hear the anxiety in his junior brother's shout. It was obvious that this junior brother's situation was quite bad. At this time, they were besieged. A thought flashed through the senior brother's mind. He wanted to follow the sound and meet up with his junior brother. However, his junior brother's furious roar came from all directions, causing the senior brother to be unable to pinpoint his exact location. Clearly, the 2 of them were trapped separately. However, compared to himself, the black-clothed senior brother was not worried about his junior brother. Since they were besieged, it meant that the opponent's strength was obviously inferior. However, the black-clothed senior brother was truly worried about himself, or rather, the owner of the pair of flying swords that he had just fought with. The black-clothed senior brother had a premonition that the thick fog around them might be the work of this unknown opponent. Whether or not he and his junior brother could escape today would perhaps depend on the result of his battle with this unknown opponent. Thinking of this, the black-clothed senior brother's heart sank. Although he did not know the result of the battle just now, it was obvious that he had suffered a hidden loss. Although that magic treasure was not his life treasure, it was one of the treasures that he often used. Therefore, after the magic treasure was destroyed, the black-clothed senior brother's mind was affected and he spat out a mouthful of blood. "Sir, who are you? What grievance do you have with us? Why did you ambush us too?" The reply he received was a huge iron seal that fell from the sky. The bottom of the iron seal was engraved with two large words, "Landslide." The black-clothed senior brother roared angrily and raised the bone shield around him with all his strength. Then, he shook his arms and an unstoppable force flowed down from his arms, directly pressing down on the core space. The black-clothed senior brother's face flushed red, and a strong stream of chi gushed out from the core space, finally completely counteracting the huge force above his head in midair. However, Lu Ping's methods had always been continuous, so how could a single landslide be a manifestation of his strength? A crisp, ding sound came from the black-clothed senior brother's chest. Under the black-clothed senior brother's panicked gaze, a dark blue sword light flashed. After a muffled groan, the black-clothed senior brother once again spilled blood from the corner of his mouth. He no longer dared to be careless, opening his mouth and spitting out a small golden fan. He held it in his hand and waved it in his hand. The golden fan suddenly grew to a length of 5 feet, and he gently waved it in the direction where the water spirit sword had disappeared. At the same time, a bright yellow heart protection mirror slowly floated up from the black-clothed senior brother's chest. The heart protection mirror suddenly expanded, once again protecting the black-clothed senior brother's body. A gust of wind suddenly formed in midair, sweeping away the mist in the direction where the water spirit sword had disappeared, forming an empty passage. At the end of the passage, a layer of 5-colored gauze fluttered, completely dissolving the wind brought about by the golden fan. "A spirit-nurturing treasure," the black-clothed senior brother exclaimed. No wonder he had been unable to break out of the thick mist. Lu Ping's body turned into a thick mist and just barely escaped the bone-corroding wind from the golden fan. He did not expect that the other party would also have a spirit-nurturing treasure, and the grade of this spirit-nurturing treasure was clearly no lower than that of the Cloudlight 5 Elements robe. The Profound Gold Fan. This is the Profound Gold Fan. You are cultivators from the Profound sect of the Plains cultivation world. Although enlightened Master Gu Hun and the others were also inside Lu Ping's Cloud Radiance 5 Elemental Cloak, Lu Ping didn't let the cloak block their vision. As soon as Senior Martial Brother Black Cloak's golden fan appeared, enlightened Master Gu Hun and the others immediately recognized it as a famous mystic treasure in Tian Xian sect. As soon as Spiritual Master Gu Hun finished speaking, another loud noise was heard. Spiritual Master Liu Yun's exasperated voice rang out, "If it's not the Xian sect, then what is it? This guy actually has a spirit-nurturing magic treasure, the Xian Divine Lightsaber. How dare you collude with the demon race to harm the cultivators of the Hebei cultivation world? Are you not afraid of giving the Xian sect an excuse to deal with you? A cultivator of the Supreme Profound sect?" This was out of Lu Ping's expectations. Originally, Lu Ping thought that the two black-clothed cultivators should be cultivators of the Spirit Martial sect. In fact, after seeing that he and the others had been plotted against by the human and demon cultivators, Spiritual Master Gu Hun had locked onto the Spirit Martial sect. This trip to the abundant jade swamp was actually a battlefield where the various sects of the Hebei cultivation world competed with each other. The Spirit Martial sect cultivators took the opportunity to cut off the late core forging cultivators of the various sects, weaken the various sects, and then join forces with the demon race cultivators to establish their own position in the Hebei cultivation world. However, the problem was, what did the Supreme Profound sect mean by interfering? Were they really not afraid of the backlash from the Hebei cultivation world and the profound sect taking advantage of the situation? Chapter 736. After separating from the two black-robed cultivators of the supreme profound sect, the demon cultivator turned into a cloud of mist and hid in the mist of the swamp, flying towards the depths of the lush jade swamp. As they flew deeper, the fog in the swamp became thicker and thicker. When the cold wind blew, it carried a gust of dense white fog. The fog suddenly shrank, as if it was frozen by this gust of cold white fog. The mist dispersed and the beast cultivator walked out. He spread out his divine sense in all directions, but after a long time, he found nothing. He couldn't help but mutter to himself, "This is strange. There has never been such a thick mist in this swamp, and how can the mist become so cold?" The demonic cultivator couldn't figure it out and was about to turn into mist again to escape, but he suddenly found that the cold white mist that was rushing toward him just now had suddenly turned into a layer of ice, and his escape technique was completely broken. At this time, the beast cultivator naturally realized that he had been plotted against. He shouted angrily, "Who is it? Come out!" As soon as his voice fell, a clear shout came. There was a trace of immaturity in the voice, but there was also a trace of majesty from the bloodline. "Kill!" A long halberd turned into a thick mist and slashed towards the beast cultivator. Bloodline pressure, a top-rank race. The beast cultivator screamed with a trace of fear. He hurriedly took out a pair of curved blades shaped like the fangs of a giant beast and blocked the long halberd. Only then did he see that the other end of the long halberd was actually held in the hands of an extremely disproportionate 11 or 12-year-old boy. The beast cultivator grinned and said, "So it's just a top-rank race that hasn't reached adulthood yet. Aren't you afraid that I'll kill you and hide your bloodline?" The boy didn't speak, but his small face was tense. He put away the long halberd in his hand, then stabbed forward again, and continued to shout, "Kill!" The beast cultivator once again blocked the long halberd. Although his cultivation was at the late core forging stage, far superior to the boy in front of him who was only at the 5th layer of core forging stage, how could a top-rank monster race cultivator who had not reached adulthood go out to gain experience without an adult accompanying him? However, after the beast cultivator's divine sense swept over, he still didn't find anything. The demonic cultivator was delighted. Could it be that this child had really come out to play on his own? But then the demonic cultivator felt a chill in his heart. He didn't notice anything unusual with his divine sense just now, but this child suddenly appeared in front of him and attacked him. Since this was the case, it was impossible that there was no one in the surroundings. Just as this thought flashed through the demon cultivator's mind, a shadow flashed through the white mist. The demon cultivator couldn't see the face of the newcomer clearly, but a pair of snow-white daggers in the newcomer's hands flashed with a cold light as they stabbed toward him. The cultivation world of the plains was far more prosperous than the cultivation world of Hebei. The most prominent manifestation of this was the fact that there were two major sects in the cultivation world of the plains. The Tianxian sect was an old major sect in the plains, and its long history was even comparable to that of the Ying Tian sect in the past. Moreover, the Tianxian sect could be said to have been prosperous for a long time. Although it had never challenged the authority of the 5 holy lands of the central mainland, there had never been less than 3 Dharma adepts in the sect. Now, the Tianxian sect even had 4 Dharma adepts. It could be said that it was a major power in the central mainland's cultivation world. The Tianxian sect was the second largest sect in the plains. This sect rose 5,000 years ago and had always been stubbornly developing under the suppression of the Tianxian sect. This sect had even gained the strength of a major sect in one fell swoop 3,000 years ago due to a great opportunity. For 3,000 years, the legacy of the Tianxian sect had never maintained the power of a major sect, but it had never been able to shake off the influence of the Tianxian sect in the cultivation world. However, in these 3,000 years, the status of the Tianxian sect as a major power had been recognized by the vast majority of the central mainland cultivators. The only thing it lacked was the recognition of the 5 holy lands of the central mainland. Just as Lu Ping learned from Zhenren Gu Hun and Zhenren Luyun that the 2 black-robed cultivators were actually the Tianxian sect cultivators of the plains, a light suddenly flashed in Lu Ping's mind. It seemed that in an instant he had figured out the cause and effect. However, at this point, even if the 2 sides stopped fighting, they could no longer resolve the entanglement between them. The Tianxian sect cultivators had schemed against the cultivators of the Hebei province, which had angered the public. Moreover, from the information they had overheard through Lu Ping's cloud-light 5 elements robe, it seemed that the Tianxian sect was plotting something bigger than just that ambush. The black-clothed senior martial brother was able to withstand several of Lu Ping's attacks. Although he was at a disadvantage, his strength couldn't be underestimated. And with the great mystery gold fan in his hand, it wouldn't be too difficult for Lu Ping to defeat the black-clothed senior martial brother in a short period of time, but it would be much more difficult to kill him. On the other side of the battlefield, although Zhenren Gu Hun and Zhenren Luyun had joined forces to gain the upper hand, the profound godly lightsaber was a magic treasure that was far more powerful than the profound gold fan. Their combined strength was no match for Lu Ping. Even with the help of 2 injured cultivators with less than half of their original strength, it would be even more difficult for them to defeat the black-robed junior brother. After all, the lush jade swamp was a crowded place. Lu Ping and Zhenren Gu Hun had ambushed the 2 Tianxian sect cultivators here and caused such a ruckus that it was hard to guarantee that no one would come looking for them. He had to finish the battle quickly. Countless thoughts flashed through Lu Ping's mind. The faintly limpid sword entangled the profound gold fan. The landslide continued to exert pressure on the top of the black-robed senior brother's head, and the elusive nether aqua sword also consumed a great deal of the black-robed senior brother's energy. Not only was he competing with Lu Ping in terms of strength, he was also competing with Lu Ping in terms of primary essence. Lu Ping already knew that the black-robed senior brother was already an arrow at the end of its flight. The strength that Lu Ping was displaying had already caused Zhenren Gu Hun and Zhenren Luyun to raise their eyebrows. However, Lu Ping seemed to think that he had not revealed enough of his strength. A magnificent sword light rose up and, under the black-robed senior brother's horrified gaze, it seemed as though it was about to cover up the entire 5-colored mist. Naturally, Lu Ping would not use the sword of primary essence, a divine ability of the Koi clan, at a time like this. Instead, he displayed the 1,000 Snowpiles sword technique, which transformed into waves of swords that charged towards the black-robed senior brother. Without saying a word, the black-robed senior brother pulled out a golden-colored talisman from his robes and tossed it above his head. Lu Ping's eyes narrowed. It was a talisman weapon. However, Lu Ping did not retreat. Instead, the flood-like sword light became even sharper. The talisman weapon rose into the air and immediately formed a huge golden door. A look of surprise flashed in Lu Ping's eyes. It was actually a talisman weapon like this. This person was trying to escape. With a thought from Lu Ping, countless waves of swords rose up into the air. Within the torrent of swords, countless waves rolled up and formed a huge sword of light that slashed towards the golden door. Lu Ping could clearly sense that this golden door had already connected to the space that the cloudy rainbow robe had connected to. However, he was currently unable to control the power of space. That was something that only Dharma adepts could do. The black-robed senior brother looked at Lu Ping's sword light, and his heart palpitated for no reason. Although he did not believe that Lu Ping would be able to break this door of space, after all, this was the power of a Dharma adept. He did not dare to be careless. He lowered his head and rushed into the door. The huge sword slashed down and split the door in half. However, the black-robed senior brother still managed to escape through this door. The remaining half of the door flashed and finally dissipated in midair. After the door disappeared, a golden talisman weapon slowly fell from the sky. Lu Ping's eyes lit up. This talisman weapon had actually been left behind. He reached out and kept the talisman weapon. With a sweep of his divine will, he found that the talisman weapon was actually undamaged. This was a life-saving item. As long as the talisman weapon was activated in a critical moment, It could form a door of space. A practitioner could enter it and escape from danger. Originally, this talisman weapon would disappear with the practitioner after he escaped. However, Lu Ping's sword had actually torn the door of space apart. Although the black-robed senior brother had managed to escape with his life through one half of the door, this talisman weapon did not disappear with him. After all, it was a good item created by Fa Xiang Laozu. Although the Cloudlight 5 Elements robe was marvelous, it could not conceal Fa Xiang Laozu's methods. Just as the black-robed senior brother used the teleportation talisman weapon, the black-robed junior brother on the other side took out the Taishan divine lightsaber and slashed out several times in succession, causing spiritual master Gu Hun and the others to flee in all directions. The black-robed junior brother took the opportunity to open a hole in the Cloudlight 5 Elements robe and escape. The Taishan divine lightsaber was a spirit-nurturing level magic treasure. Although the Cloudlight 5 Elements robe was marvelous, it did not dare to clash head-on with a flying sword of the same level. But how could Lu Ping let him succeed? The power of the fated Autumn Waters sword was even greater than a spirit-nurturing magic treasure that had condensed 8 treasure seals. Lu Ping took advantage of the situation and slashed out horizontally, cutting down the opponent's sword light midway. Meanwhile, the black-robed junior brother suddenly took out an escape talisman weapon. A golden door rose up and the black-robed junior brother quickly dove into it. The door flashed and disappeared, but this time, the talisman weapon was not left behind. Lu Ping performed a hand seal and the surrounding mist quickly gathered inside. Then, a gauze robe formed from the mist and draped over Lu Ping's back before disappearing. Not far away, Spiritual Master Gu Hun, Spiritual Master Lu Yun, and the 2 injured cultivators all had grave expressions on their faces. Normally, the 2 of them would have praised Lu Ping for his methods. But at this time, the 4 of them were clearly preoccupied and had no intention of staying here any longer. Brother Xianping, the actions of the Supreme Mystery Sect this time really exceeded the expectations of the various sections. We must pass on the news to the Laozu of our respective sects so that they can make early preparations. This trip to the Yingyu Swamp is fraught with danger. Brother Xianping should meet up with the Laozu of Tianshan as soon as possible and inform him of what happened here. Lu Ping nodded. Brother Gu is right, but it is strange that the Supreme Mystery Sect would scheme against the various sects of the cultivation world of Hebei. I believe that the Supreme Mystery Sect alone would not be able to do so. When Spiritual Master Gu Hun learned that the one who schemed against them was actually the famous Taishan sect of the plain cultivation world, he was the first to panic. Otherwise, the black-robed junior brother would not have escaped so easily when the 4 of them besieged him. Spiritual Master Gu Hun was an outstanding figure of the Gu clan. After hearing Lu Ping's reminder, he immediately realized something. After cupping his hands in thanks to Lu Ping, he said, "In that case, we will go first. Brother Xianping, please take care of yourself." You're tuning in to the Passion Pages YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.